Greetings. Welcome to the Captive Desk. Please join me in welcoming Grayson to the Captive Desk. You can find Grayson engaging in streams, discussions, after shows, and debates, mostly about science topics, on numerous channels across YouTube and on his channel too, Base Theory. There'll be a link in the description. Hello, Grayson. Thanks for taking time out from a very busy schedule to have a chat here at the Captive Desk.
Hey, Dave, thanks for having me. And let me just say that you have the most hype countdown music to the starts of your streams, man. I was jamming backstage.
Good. I'm glad you liked it. All right. Well, before we get into your current YouTubing endeavor, I like to ask my guests about their beginnings and where it all began. So if you could take us back, were you raised in a religious household? Were your parents religious? What was your upbringing like?
No, so I think maybe my story is becoming more common, but certainly I don't meet many people that were raised without any knowledge of religion and with a total, vacuum of a religious background. I really wasn't introduced to, I kind of had some idea of church, but it wasn't until maybe like fifth grade in elementary school that I really understood a bit more about what religion was. So, which is kind of surprising because I was raised in Texas, kind of right there in the Bible Belt. So the fact that I was kind of in a bubble of ignorance about people's religions for so long in that area of the country is kind of well, I won't use the word miracle, but you know what I mean. So yeah,
I
I
understand.
was not really I would have a ton of questions as a kid, but my parents never really answered them in ways that were spiritual, or they didn't, tell me about God or religions or what people believed. Normally, I would either get the scientific explanation for things, or they would say, I don't know, maybe you should look that up, or but it was never like, go talk to the priest about it or anything like that. I don't really know what a religious upbringing is like, to be honest. So I consider myself lucky.
So how was your going to school and everything then? Were kids around you religious since you were in that, talking about where being in Texas were?
Yeah. So definitely. So I went to public school, and actually in fifth grade, the entire school went on a field trip to um, it is normally a Christian Bible summer camp during the summers, but during the school years, sometimes the schools will go and you go through the whole summer camp experience, but without all of the Christian elements to it. And I had the time of my life with that. I didn't know what was going on. I saw little certain, uh, religious artifacts at the camp, but I didn't know what they were. So I was begging my parents, "Oh, can I please go back to this summer camp for the summer?" And they're like, "This is like a Christian Bible. We don't even have a Bible to send with you." So I had to go buy a Bible and to get ready and go to camp, and went to camp and everything. And then, man, I really learned. And that was like an hour of a Bible study every day. That was the first time I ever read the Bible. It was fifth grade summer camp. And I had so many questions. I was asking, like, these people were looking at me like, how does this kid really not know any of these questions? Because I really didn't know anything. And so I asked a bunch of questions, and I had fun at summer camp, but I thought the whole thing was really silly. It's not like I was like, oh wow, all this stuff. I kind of just put on a good face, and I think maybe the counselors at the camp could tell that this fifth grader didn't really believe any of this crap. But it wasn't until actually the next fall where I learned what the word atheist was for the first time. And that was when another kid in my class went up to me in the hallway between classes and she like shoved me up against a wall and was like, I know what you are. You're an atheist, aren't you? And
Oh no.
I was like, a what? Like, I had no idea what that was. And he said, it means that you believe in science instead of God. And that's what he told me it meant. And so I was like, oh, then yeah, I am one of those. And then he tried to punch me in the face. So that was my introduction to these concepts.
Well, I've got a similar thing. I didn't know what an atheist was till I was older, and I've talked to a lot of other people that have said similar things that it just we didn't know we were atheists. We just
Mhm.
went about our thing. We didn't believe, but we just didn't know what an atheist was. We didn't think it was necessary. Well,
Yeah, I
you,
mean, it kinda seems like the default position. I don't know many theistic babies.
that I think that's the way a lot of us looked at it. There was just you either went to church and believed, or you just didn't. And and then like I like to tell people, Carl Sagan to me was the cool guy on the Johnny Carson show that
Mhm.
talked about space stuff. You
That was
know,
probably Bill Nye for me.
right? Yeah. So it was never it never entered the discussion, and nobody really talked about it or anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was more of a thing. Really, when you got on the internet, people started with me at least was,
Mm.
are you an
Yeah.
atheist? What are you? Describe yourself. And it's like, oh, I'm a non-believer. No,
Well,
you
I
got to be an
became,
atheist. And it's like, okay.
yeah, I became really more interested in these kinds of topics when I got to middle school. And that's when I started to get on the internet and I started to get on the early days of YouTube. And I began to watch like videos like Thunderfoot, like an
Mhm.
early atheist debunking creationists. And I thought, there was something about creationists and creationism that was a little bit like a car wreck to me, like where you pass it on the highway, you can't help but look at it. Like there's just something like morbidly fascinating about it. And like
Mhm.
that was what creationists were to me. Like and like evangelical Christians more broadly. Like I found something like fascinating. Like how does your mind work? Because it was so alien to my experience. So I would watch a lot, probably more evangelical content than I was watching atheist content. Like, I don't know if you've ever heard of this guy. I don't know if he still does videos, but Shock of God, I watched a lot of him. He was this creationist that would make these little videos on his bike, like on his motorcycle, driving around town, just
Mhm.
rambling as he's driving on his motorcycle about atheists. And for some reason, man, in middle school, that and Kent
That
Hovind.
yeah, okay, that sounds familiar. I think
Yeah,
I have.
I would
Yeah.
watch I would watch that, I would watch Kent Hovind, Thunderfoot, so I was introduced to this kinda community early on from just, like, a morbid curiosity, basically.
That was my thing. I first saw a Ken Ham video on a local Christian channel on one of the cable channels that was only part time. Back in the day. I don't know if you
Yeah.
remember when they had part time TV on,
Oh, yeah.
and that was the same thing. It was like, I mean, I understood. I went to church when I was a kid and everything. I understood people believed, but I had no idea that people literally were talking about how they put all the animals on Noah's Ark and everything. And it was just like, whoa, what's this guy
Yeah.
doing?
Well, I thought that it was something like as a kid, I wasn't raised in a religious home, but I was raised with like the Christmas tradition, right? So I was in maybe like first grade when I was just like, how does a reindeer fly without wings? So I put the two
Mhm.
and two together. Santa's not real, and the Tooth Fairy is not real. And in my mind, I was thinking, oh, and God's not real. Like I really did not think that for a long time, like even beyond middle school or beyond elementary school, probably wasn't until middle school that I realized no, like the teachers, the adults in the room are really believing this stuff. This
Mhm.
isn't just for kids. I really thought that there I would get to a certain age. And then the adults would tell me, "Hey, Santa Claus, God, Jesus, yeah, that's just something that we tell the kids." I really was surprised when that did not happen, and the day that I found out that, hey, the adults in the room believe this crap. Like,
Mhm.
uh,
I'm the same way. I just my story is I just outgrew it. Like you said, you just okay. It was fun for kids, Santa Claus and everything. You
mhm,
lose a tooth, you get $1 under your pillow. I don't. You can argue there's some kind of a harm there, but generally, I think it's part of the child imagination thing. And as long as you don't, you know, 30 years old waiting for your presents to show up under the tree.
Yeah.
there's no harm, no foul, you know.
Well, I think that's the situation that most Christians find themselves in today. 30 years old, waiting for their prayers to be answered.
Yeah, I agree with you. I have a lot of the similar views on it that you do. So
Mm.
then so then you're up to middle school, then how about high school? How was the high school years then?
I chilled out on more of
Similar?
like the militaristic atheism strain and just kind of focused on getting a girlfriend mostly in high school and college. My
Right on.
priorities were on other things, like less existential, more worldly in nature. So
I
I
rode a 10 speed. I rode a 10 speed with the narrow little tires in the snow.
yeah,
If there were girls somewhere,
yeah,
I
exactly.
yeah, I'm
So
with
it,
you.
it wasn't really, I mean, I kind of fell off on being aware of some of these fundamental creationists and that whole community. I kind of like, it's not that I didn't find it interesting anymore, but there were just more pressing things on my mind at the time. And then yeah, I mean, I've always been interested in like weirdo people with opinions opposite mine. So a lot of my fascination with um religious fundamentalism came back up again in 2016, well 2015, 2016 with like the Trump election, and it was just really fascinating to me to see how religious fundamentalists were going for this guy. And so then I was watching a lot more content from like Trumpers, MAGA types. I started watching content as like the Trump years went on. I started watching some of the QAnon content, some of the flat Earth stuff started cropping up and becoming big in 2017 and beyond.
I just can't go flat Earth. The creationists are enough. That's my line. I just drew
Yeah.
the line at creationists.
Oh, it's hilarious, man. I
Yeah,
really recommend it, honestly. Like, if you're the kind of person like me that's just like interested by these weirdos, and then you're like, how do you tie your shoes in the morning? Like, how do you get out of bed and function with this understanding? Like, some people literally have like an understanding of the world that is like at the level of like a 12th century medieval peasant, like, and they haven't progressed past that level of superstition, and it's just yeah, I just like it's. I feel like Jane Goodall sometimes, when I'm with the creationists, just kind of like taking notes. Like how does your mind work like that? Like I don't know. So some of this stuff, yeah,
yeah.
uh,
We'll mention that. I've got a few notes from some of your discussions. So
yeah. The last thing I will say about the flat earthers is I haven't done a flat earth debate yet. I am open to doing it, and I hope one day soon that I can the opportunity presents itself and I get a flat earth debate. But I found one guy the other day I was watching who literally you're familiar with like the Kent Hovind 6 stages of evolution, right? So this guy, he had
I know
all of
I know
Kent.
all that stuff by heart.
Yep.
Unfortunately,
So he had 7 stages, right? He had all of Kent's
Mm,
stages, but then he had another stage, heliocentrism. So
mm.
he was saying, look, the heliocentric model is just a part of the theory of evolution. And he's saying you can't be a Christian and a globe earther. And he was I want so badly to see a flat earth creationist versus like a standard like Kent Hovind kind of mold creationist. And I want to see them go back and forth and each one of them accusing the other one of being an evolutionist.
Absolutely. My favorite debates are when it's theist against theist because it's hard for them to use the same arguments
Yep.
against each other. So they have to get creative, or it's going to be really boring with them. Just using the same thing back and forth.
They literally have the
I'm
exact
rubber, you're glue.
yeah, it's the same exact arguments.
So, well, then, obviously you really love science and you are well versed, and a lot of us are very impressed with your knowledge.
Oh,
And I
thank
don't
you.
want to say anything about your age, but you are a lot younger than a lot of us, and you are
I
very
got a baby face.
knowledgeable. You're very knowledgeable, and you are very impressive. You do very well in your debates and everything. So,
Oh, thank you.
You're
I
welcome.
really appreciate that. Some people think I'm like in my early 20s. I'm not that young, but I got a little bit of a baby face. But I'm not in my 30s yet. So
I, it's all right. Enjoy it while you can, brother.
yeah,
The
yeah,
gray the grays will show up before you know it, and you're like, where did
yeah,
that come from?
yep.
So
Well, hey,
what
Gray is in
what's
my name, so
I was thinking about just just doing it all gray and just but then I don't know. I
no,
don't
it
know if
looks
I want to
cool.
mess with it on my face. It might mess the skin up or
Hey, I
something.
think salt and pepper is a good look. I think I'll be able to rock it one day.
Well, my grandfather with my last name was buried with still some color in his hair, so I'm hopeful. So
Well, yeah, you got good genes then.
yeah.
I'm pretty sure I
So
got the male pattern baldness genes. I'm pretty stressed about it.
my my dad had a comb over since he was like 21, so you never know. You
Mm.
never know. And my brother had a full beard in high school, and I still have it a little thin on the sides here. So you just never know. You just never know. So speaking of genes and everything, you really, really love science. So
Mhm.
was it school that sparked your interest, or was it a hobby, or what got you so interested in being so well? I mean, not just a passing thing, but obviously you've read a lot and you're well versed and everything. And
Yeah, thank you. I would actually I'm not the biggest fan of school. I think I mean I have my degree and everything, but honestly, I feel like the amount that I learn has been greatly increased after school. I feel like after I don't have to focus on, assignments and deadlines, and I can actually just, you know, follow my interests. I think it's mostly just the fact that I really love learning. Um I love going into like a deep dive on like Wikipedia rabbit holes, reading about stuff that interests me. I mean, it's not like I just have like one or two areas that I find interesting. I'm like reading about all types of areas of history or physics or chemistry or biology or geology. That's one of the things that I love about doing this kind of content is that arguing with these people sometimes come brings up so many different areas and like
Mhm.
niche areas of science, especially where it's just like, huh, yeah, I never thought about that. And then you have to go do a lot of reading so that you can actually understand the topic, so you can understand why they're full of BS. And then when you can understand it, I just like having these kinds of discussions, I feel like aids me to like learn about some of these topics because it causes me to learn things that I wouldn't have learned just by myself. So I
Mhm.
can go and read up on a topic, I can do my own research, but then, somebody's going to have a question that I'm not going to be able to think of. And if they're asking it to me, like, and I don't have an answer, then that's a really good, it showed that I have a hole in my knowledge and that I have more learning to do. So I think that actually, as a result of me doing these debates, I've actually learned a ton more than I would have otherwise. So that's one of the aspects that I like about these debates. But just overall, I'd say that most of my learning is just fueled by my curiosity and my interests, really. I mean, I love learning new stuff. It's like one of my favorite hobbies.
Well, you mentioned your degree. What is your degree in?
So I have a degree in biochemistry.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I did, when I was getting my degree, I worked in a few labs and took a few graduate courses in like neuroscience. And then I worked in a structural biology lab. So kind of all over the board. I also had minors in like film and in business. So like literally all over the board, just following what was interesting to me. I mean, I took a lot of genetics courses because super interested in genetics. At one point in time, I wanted to go into genetic engineering for fruit, actually. Um, so yeah, I've always had a broad spectrum of interests, and I kind of took classes that I just found interesting. I was lucky enough to take in a lot of like AP classes and things in high school, so I transferred into college with like a ton of credits. I didn't have to do any of like the basic like prerequisite type classes.
Hmm.
So like I had enough credits to be like a junior So I could have graduated really quick, but I took like 4.5 years to graduate just because I was like taking all the classes that I want. I was really trying to milk my experience there and really like, you know, expose myself to a lot of the different like departments and the fields and, talk to the physics departments and, talk to the genetics people on campus. Um, yeah, so definitely I really enjoy learning. Even though I do have mixed feelings on colleges in general and the way that learning is done right now. Um, I still do love learning new things, however that is accomplished. And yeah, the fruit thing with the bioengineering of fruit. In high school I wanted to bioengineer new varieties of fruit. Um, I don't
I
know if
was
the
I was
world.
just going to ask, when you were a kid, did you want to be a scientist when you grew up?
Yeah, in middle school, I wanted to go into quantum physics, and
Okay.
then I really started liking genetics, and I had the idea of combining a strawberry and a cantaloupe into a strawberry or a Canterbury, alternatively. And then, yeah, so I started doing some deep dive into figuring out how that was possible. I generated some theories of my own. I was like one of the first people in the U.S. to order this specific kind of berry from Tanzania. Like I was like literally like when I first found out about this berry, I wanted it for an experiment, and like you couldn't get your hands on it. It was not commercially available. So I like had a Google alert set up, and as soon as it became commercially available on the internet, like I got the alert, I put in the first order, and it took months for them to get that berry to me. But I got it. I grew it in my university greenhouse. Um, I you know think I had an idea about how to isolate the gene involved in the coloration in the microtubules, and yeah, and couldn't get any staff sponsorship though. Nobody wanted to support my fruit experiments, so
Oh,
nobody would let me use their lab, unfortunately. But maybe the world's just not ready for the strawberry. But
but I hear all the time the government's just wasting money handing it out to people that want to make things like this. It's
yeah,
it's
I
not it's
mean,
not that easy to get money, huh?
well, I don't know, for maybe for a college kid, but nobody would really listen to me at the time. But you know, maybe one day we'll see. I still think that for everyone listening at home, you should really try cantaloupe and strawberry in the same bite and mix them together in your mouth. The flavors combine in a way that will surprise you. It doesn't taste like strawberry and cantaloupe. It's like the gestalt is greater than the sum of its parts. It'll surprise you. Just try it. Trust me.
Well, I know I've had them together all in the same bowl in a fruit salad, but I've had other things in it with it too. But
Yeah.
next time I'll pay attention to put just those two in a bite, and we'll
Yeah,
see.
put them in the same bite and, like, mix them together, try to taste them both at the same time. I'm telling you, like, whatever flavor that was, that's what I was trying to isolate because, like, that flavor would be my favorite fruit. So,
So then you were talking about you were kind of pushed back, and then you let it go for a little while.
mhm.
But now obviously you're back to the pushback again. So what got you to pushing back again?
You mean pushing back against, like fundamentalists?
Yep.
Um, I wanna say that it was just coming from the fact that I love to argue. Like, oftentimes, like, my family will say that I would make a great lawyer just because 'cause I'm always picking arguments. And so, to spare my family and friends from that side of me, I kind of thought it's probably best if I pick arguments with strangers on the internet. So I was going around to different, I would get suggested different Facebook pages or whatever. Like Facebook would literally suggest stuff that they would know would like make me want to argue in the comments. Like it would send me
it's
like
it's
fundamentalist
got
posts
it's gotten me
knowing that
into
the
trouble.
comment.
It's
Yeah.
gotten me into trouble more than once.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so they know how to get engagement from you. So they
Yep.
knew what was going to cause me to engage. So I was seeing these posts, I was getting into these Facebook arguments, and all the time in the back of my mind I was like, man, like I really want to actually like debate like people on audio. I don't want to just type it in Facebook comments. It was just it was really annoying, but I really did like the engagement and the argument. Um, and it was mostly on like politics or topical stuff. It's like some creationist stuff, flat Earth, race realism, whatever, climate change. I like arguing with like a lot of the different topics. And then this one guy, we were arguing about like critical race theory or something. Like he was saying it's a bunch of bullshit, and I was like, it's really hard to argue with statistics and evidence. And he was like, oh, okay, well then let's just do this on Facebook Live. Like I'm gonna set up a live and you join it right now. And I was like, hey, wow, like I was kind of procrastinating on doing the whole debate with the webcam and the audio, and like this all of a sudden just dropped into my lap. And so then we had the discussion on it. I haven't uploaded to YouTube or anything, but that was kind of like the catalyst to sort of like get me to make the YouTube account. I named it Critical Based Theory because the the first topic was critical race theory, so it was kind of a funny pun.
There you
And
go.
yeah, so then I started the channel. I didn't really do much with the channel for a few months, but then I started watching some of Standing for Truth's content, and he was like, "We really need like debaters or whatever." And then I saw in the after shows that were hosted by Logical, Plausible, Probable that anybody could join. So I just started joining those, and creationists were joining in. And this is my first time hearing about a lot of different concepts like genetic entropy and just a lot of these little like creationist bugaboos that are not like actual scientific concepts, but are like literally only things in the creationist world. So I was hearing a lot about those, and then I just sort of got my way onto being on one of Standing for Truth's debates on his channel. And then I just was like, yeah, you know what, I just got to do this my own and do my own channel here. So that's the kind of long story about how I got to where I am now. So
Yeah, that was I was putting it off too, and then
yep.
finally I just, I decided, well, I've been critiquing other people enough, so I should at least, put myself out there. And I didn't really know what I was going to do, and I knew a couple people that came on and kind of got my channel started, and I was busy over the summer remodeling and everything, so I really didn't do much. And then so I put a lot of thought into it. Then I kind of got my direction going now, where I'm going to do my own little videos, and then I'm going to have people like you on talk about what you're doing, because frankly, I don't want to do all the debates and everything.
Mm.
I know
Well,
it all by heart, and I'm
yeah,
not saying anything. We need you guys out there, doing the debates, because like I say, you can't ignore these people that make these arguments, but you can't set them up on too high of a platform either. You know what I mean? So YouTube is kind of good because it keeps them off national TV. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah,
So yeah, they need to be addressed, but let's not make too big a deal out of them.
yeah. Definitely, I mirror that mentality. And yeah, I've been having a lot of fun with the channel as it's been going on. I've kind of been doing kind of like three main types of content, where I've got the debates, which so far it's just been creationists. Actually, it's kind of been a challenge to find people that even want to argue with me at this point. Like, I'm like, hey, it's an open invitation, anyone can join, and then it's just crickets. So finding people that are willing to to engage in an argument has been a little bit of a challenge. But then I also do like after shows or just sort of like live streams that people can join and discuss. And then sort of my like little passion projects have been sort of shorter videos, just focusing on kind of a random topic that I find really interesting in either science or in history. So I don't know if you've caught any of those. I've done some really, really random ones, like in areas from like physics to like history. Talked about like the Black Stone in Mecca for an episode. Talked about some ancient atheist philosophers in India, and talked about the evolution of rainforests or the evolution of God. Just like those are the videos I have the most fun making, and that I like have the most fun in engaging with the content itself. So hopefully there's an audience for stuff like that. People find it interesting and kind of share my passion for learning new stuff. But definitely, I understand that it's like the entertainment value of like a debate. I mean, I enjoy listening to debates. I seek them out. So I totally understand why people um are drawn to arguments and debates. And you kind of want to just see the two ideas going at it, and you want to see somebody laying down the science, explaining it well and succinctly, making their point, and you want to hear the other person just have a very laughable response. I mean, this is like that's the entertainment for me. I really love in a debates when somebody can be very articulate about the science and the science communication and communicating it well. That's one aspect I enjoy about debates. But then I just also just love the entertainment of just the car wreck on the other side, and just when you got both in a debate, uh, man, I understand like why people love that content.
Well, since we're already talking about it, then I've got some notes. And first of all, on your the atheist philosophers of ancient India, I think
Hmm.
was the title.
Yeah.
Everybody should go and check that out. That was well done. I really
Thank
enjoyed
you.
that. He talks about the ancient atheists, the earliest atheists. Would you go back to the 6th century BC? I think it says.
Yep. Yep. Just about that. And that was like a period in time of like flourishing in kind of religious and philosophical thought all around the world, not just in India, but in China, in Persia, in ancient Greece. So yeah, that was a really fun video to explore, because most of the time when people think of like the dawning of kind of like the philosophy and these kinds of like higher ideas, especially like ideas like naturalism or empiricism, some people don't even think about that those coming up until even like the Enlightenment or something. But just like the South Asian component, like the Indian history component, is oftentimes like completely overlooked. So kind of getting to shine a light on that, because there were some really, really cool philosophical developments going on in India at that time, like way before any of these other developments in the rest of the world. So being able to shine a light on that, just because it is so interesting and it is so underrepresented, that was a lot of fun to do. So,
I listen to Sadhguru a lot, and you know, take it or leave it if you like him or not. But that's he talks a lot about the Charvaka
hmm.
and how India was the only place really in the world where an open atheist could have a discussion in the town square with an open theist
Yep.
and still have dinner afterwards, and
Yep.
everything was fine.
Yep. Even like 1,000 years from that period in Europe, you could still get killed, publicly executed for being even suspected of being an atheist. So it was definitely a lot more of an enlightened time and place in ancient India, that's for sure. And I see people in the comments. I am an atheist, and I'm 27, soon to be 28 next month.
Well, I was just going to say, why don't we say hello to everybody in the chat real quick before we talk a little more about your different experiences with your videos.
Yeah.
So let's see who we want to say hello to everybody. Classia, always good to see you. Pragmatic Crystal, always a pleasure. Scott Duke, hello, Scott. Scott says hello to both of us. Big Bad Mama's in the chat saying hello. Carol, good to see you. KCA Randy, always good to see you. Thanks for being here. He says, I was the Only non-believer I knew for 6 years.
Wow. That is very isolating.
Let's see. There's a lot of comments. There we go. Lots of people saying hello to each other. Always good to see everybody in the chat. Scott says, there's no better hate than Christian love.
Ain't that the truth? They say, "Oh, I'm just doing this for your soul. It's tough love, and it's to save your eternal soul." They could justify just about any mistreatment that way.
And Calassius says, there were no atheists in my Catholic school. Not that you knew of. Or is that just what they told you? There weren't any. Let's see. Yeah, and similar here. Yeah, okay. At least no one would ever say they were in the 70s, right? AR, good to see you. I feel bad for shitting on my friend for being atheist when I was younger. I was hardly a believer back then either.
You know, it's funny that one of my friends that I have now that is probably one of my more intelligent, rational thinking, secular atheist friends. Um, when we first became friends in middle school, he was a creationist through and through. So eventually he just kind of grew up and matured and realized, hey, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense. So
Mm-hmm. And that's I try to point out in my videos too, is to kind of remember that don't make it personal just because somebody has a belief, because you don't know. They could have been raised that way. That's all they ever knew. That's all they ever learned. Some of them went to schools where they actually have creationist materials, and as far as they knew, they were being taught. You know what I
oh
mean?
yeah.
So
Oh,
you,
I hear from a lot of like former believers that they say like it didn't even occur to me that you could question it. Like growing up, like it didn't even that was just the way it was. There was not any questioning otherwise. There wasn't even a possibility of an alternative. So yeah, definitely, it can take years to undo some of the damage from some upbringings. It's really unfortunate. So I feel like I was really lucky in not having that. But for people that do, I mean, it's definitely. I mean, that's a very difficult paradigm shift to make. But
and on
plenty
and
of
on
people.
the other side too, and any believers that are listening, mind you, like Grayson and I both, we didn't grow up thinking that way. So you have to understand that we see it really out of the normal, that these things are taken literally, when
Yeah,
we just we were never exposed like that.
yeah, it's super weird to me. Like I look at it and I literally I can't even put myself in those shoes. Like I have no idea even how some of these people view the world. Like it's so alien to me. I can't even I don't even know what that's like.
Yeah, we got look at the trees. Always a pleasure, sir.
Just
He
look at the
says
trees.
he says hello to both of us. He's tuning in at work. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Everybody's saying hello to trees and AR and everybody. And let's see. Scott Duke says in Arkansas it was considered shameful because shaming is what fundies do best.
Hmm. Yeah, a mix of guilt and shame is probably like the biggest motivating behaviors in that kind of cultural framework. You're either motivated by shame or guilt.
And Calassius says, I remember kids making fun of Muhammad's flying horse thing. Ironic, isn't it? Yeah, that's one of the things that I often point out is my argument is all supernatural claims are equal in their validity. So when you believe in something, which is your right to believe in something, but then to say what somebody else believes is ridiculous is, again, from the outside when we're looking at it, it's like, you want respect for your beliefs, but then you'll turn right around and make fun of somebody else's in another religion, and that's really not cricket. It's just not cool. AR says he had an ant speaking in tongues.
Oh,
That
whoa.
had to be interesting. Scott says, I remember in the fourth grade, some kid, maybe me, said something the teacher didn't like, and then she started preaching for about an hour. Uh-oh.
Oh, wow. That is very foreign to my experience.
I had a few teachers didn't like a few things I said either.
Oh, I mean, I had issues with authority figures. I definitely understand. Like, I got in a lot of trouble with teachers, but I definitely never had any of them bring up religion. That's for sure. Like, they would try to call my mom, but they wouldn't try to phone God in and and try to preach at me.
My poor mother, may she rest in peace, got a lot of phone calls about me and my brother.
Yeah. Well, my mom was always, like she was working, so like she didn't have time to call. She would call and be like, "Yo, what the hell are you calling me about? Sort it out with him. Like
Oh,
you have the problem with him. It's your problem with him. No, don't involve me. I'm busy."
those were the worst ones because my mom was home for a while and then she went back to work.
Mm,
So when she got a call at work, then we we were really in trouble.
yeah. Well, luckily, she just kind of would be like, you handle it with your teachers. As long as you can maintain your grades up, then she would never bother to step in. And so, as long as I kept making A's, I could basically be as troublesome as I want. So I kind of let it go to my head a little bit. I was a bit arrogant. I was a bit, definitely some issues with authority, and I didn't like to be told what to do. As long as I was making an A in the course, I kind of figured I could do whatever I wanted, which, I've matured since then. That was, high school.
Kids don't do that.
Yeah.
Listen to your teacher.
Yeah, you will find, and eventually that did come up to bite me because I found a teacher in college that I tried that with. I was just coming off my first semester. I had made all A's, so I was feeling really, proud of myself. Like I was really confident, like I could do no wrong. And then I got this teacher that you know, didn't like my attitude, pulled me aside after class and was like, Grayson, you have a lot of potential, Grayson. If you just pulled yourself up by your bootstraps and you just really put your nose down and you do the work, you too can get an A in this class. And I literally, I told that guy, look, man, I'm gonna get an A in your class. It doesn't matter what you do about it. And that was the dumbest thing. I can't believe I told the teacher, it doesn't matter what you do, I'm gonna get an A in your class. Because listen to me, ladies and gentlemen, it does matter what the teacher does. If they don't want to give you an A, even if you get an A on every single test in the class, they can make it so that you don't get an A in the class. They have the ultimate power. Do not try to challenge their authority. So I learned the hard way. I did not get an A in that class, even though I deserved one. I got all A's in all the tests, but he would grade my projects and homework and such in a way that I did not get an A in the course. Not that I'm still bitter or anything like that.
Randy says, I cut so many people off online and off. I guess he doesn't tolerate much of the nonsense. I've gotten to the point if I hear certain keywords, I already know where the conversation is going, and it's like I already know if I want to engage or not. You know,
Oh, I literally I wish I had that amount of self-restraint and discipline, but I don't. I cannot avoid stepping in it.
I I
When an
used
argument
to.
presents
I
itself,
we might have been in the same rooms on Facebook, so
yeah.
I used to. Like I say, I got in a lot of trouble, and I let my emotions get the best of me. So
Yeah, like
I'm
I
trying
still
not to do
have
that anymore.
like I have one uncle that's like, as fundamental as they come. Like he literally believed that Obama was the Antichrist. And every single Thanksgiving, me and him have to get into it. Like I cannot go an entire family function without at least making some kind of comment or responding to some comment of his that just goes off into a back and forth. I do not have the self control.
Me, yeah, I've had a few too. My wife knows now that we go for a few minutes, we make our appearance, we say hi, hello, love you, give everybody hugs, make the rounds, and then don't stay too long because somebody's going to say something stupid.
Yeah.
And I can only refrain for so long. Yeah, I understand. Randy says, I try to heckle the flurfers wherever I see them. Yeah, it's like I've seen a few glimpses. It's like the sun. I just kind of get a quick glimpse of some of the flurfer talks. I think one of them was with Professor Dave. Maybe I watched a little bit of, and it was just, and it's so hard to watch. It's so
Yeah,
hard to watch.
man. I mean, they're literally denying like gravity. Like, I mean, I guess it's one thing to deny evolution. I mean, it's still a very well-founded theory, but I don't understand these flat earthers that they think gravity is like a type of magnetism or something like it, or like somebody once told me that it was all friction. Like, what does that even mean? Like, I mean, oh, it gets so. I mean, it just gets so out of control so fast when the flat earthers start talking about their beliefs. You literally have to start from ground one as like, okay, like what is real, what is not. Like,
Mhm.
oh
I had one day that said the Earth's atmosphere extends around the moon, so you don't really need a spacesuit or anything on the moon.
wow.
And it was one of those times where I didn't know what to say. I just, you got me, dude. I was, I, I didn't know what to say. I was
It's
dumbfounded.
I've had this idea for the last 10 years or so for an idea for a television show that I think would be so entertaining. And the idea is as the season goes on, right? You start with a certain number, like 25 contestants or something, and they're all flat earthers. And as the show goes on, you go through progressively more and more extreme demonstrations that the earth is not flat. And like once they realize that it's not flat and it is a globe, then they are eliminated from the competition. And only the ones that are most fervent that it really is flat, my eyes are deceiving me, or whatever it is. And like as it goes on, and like the finale is they take them up into space, and they like, if they still don't believe, they put them in like an EVA suit. Like they have like an actual spacewalk, and you literally just see how far you have to push them to like show them like, and hopefully, I don't know how it would end. If they would finally all come around, it would be kind of like a happy ending. Or I guess if they don't, and they literally are sent into space, they're looking at the Earth not being flat, and they still say it's flat, then I guess you just win the show. I don't know. You definitely don't win any cash, but you win like
That's
the Crocodile
that.
Award.
Yeah, that's ultimately the question. What would it take? Yeah, would
Yeah.
you actually have to go into space, and then what are you going to say then? Oh, it's a projection on the screen of the spaceship or your helmet. Yeah, it's just if you're just going to be that ridiculous, it'll never end. I don't think there's anything that would ever do it.
Yeah.
Of course, a lot of them I don't think are really. A lot of them have to be just faking it, just pulling people's legs. I can't really.
You know what?
I can't
One thing,
believe that they all really. Of course,
so
I've
one
been
thing,
wrong before. So
one thing that I have learned at this point is that intelligence is compartmentalized. Like some people that I know are like really, really intelligent, can really synthesize information well in one area. And then they have a complete blind spot where they don't even turn any of their intellectual prowess towards. Like I know like spine surgeons that were telling me that you know that the pandemic was really just the flu, and they were telling me all this crazy stuff. And I have people that I would consider very intelligent telling me all kinds of stupid QAnon conspiracies, and I really just have come away with the belief that intelligence is not a global metric. Intelligence is compartmentalized. People have blind spots, people have areas of expertise. And yeah, that's the only way I can make sense of some of these people's worldviews out there.
I used to be a lot more harsh on people's intelligence levels, and then Michael Shermer put out the book "Why Smart People Believe
Hmm.
Silly Things" or something like that is the title. And Cosmic Skeptic did a talk about it too, and then it kind of changed my thinking. That people like Einstein held to steady state, even though he should have known better. And more they pointed out these smart
You mean
people that hold
Hubble?
on to things.
Sorry.
Was it?
I don't think Einstein held to steady state, but Hubble did. I think Einstein tried to convince Hubble.
Well, wasn't that his didn't Einstein have like an asterisk by his formula for something?
Well, he added in the cosmological constant to make the universe a steady state. Um,
Okay,
but
okay,
and ultimately he got rid of that when he realized that the universe is expanding, and we're in an expanding universe. And he said, it was a big mistake of his career, but it's since been added back in as dark energy. So not that big of a mistake. But at the end of his career, he definitely was understood the universe to be expanding. It was ironically Edwin Hubble, who was a steady stater and did not believe that the universe was expanding, even though he is the one who gets credit for making the observation that the universe is expanding, like Hubble's law. So,
right.
ironically, that he did not accept the implications of his own discovery.
And I like to point out Ben Carson was on every magazine cover in the world when he separated those Siamese twins that were joined at the head.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the man to go to in the world to do it. And then he turns around and he talks about young earth creationism,
Yep.
and the pyramids were grain storage that Joseph's grain storage or something like that. Yeah, he's totally young earth creationist. And but he's the guy to go to if you need Siamese twins separated. So yeah, it's a great divide sometimes with the intelligence level, and like you say, where it's used, and it seems
Mm-hmm.
to be they choose where they want to use it, because you can't be the world's top brain surgeon and be a dum dum. I mean, you just can't. So it's
Well,
like,
that's what I was talking about with compartmentalized intelligence, because I know a lot of brain surgeons. I used to I like I've worked with a lot of brain surgeons in the past, and some of them, man, they're good at brain surgery, but
yeah,
like
and
you can be good in
anything
certain
else,
areas, and you can be
anything else, right?
Total
Yeah,
idiot about other things.
that's just amazing, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
well, and Pete, I like to point out we had a vice president, Mike Pence, young Earth creationist, and he was one heartbeat away from being president. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's and again, you would think, like the politician or not, I'm not going to get into that, but usually you think the people are, halfway intelligent to be a governor, a vice president, a senator, but again, like you said, they can be really good at it, but anything else,
Hmm.
nope, nada.
Yep.
Carol, good to see you. Always good to see you. They're talking about public school. I, you know, I went to public school. I think I learned a thing or two, and we had great shop classes and everything. I took electronics all 4 years, and I used it to my advantage, in a lot of different jobs I had. So, I yes, education definitely has issues, but I don't think it's as that we didn't learn anything. I think we learned a lot. Of course, I didn't sleep through every class, but let's see. I think I covered most everybody. Let's see what we got here. Talking about funding charter schools. Well, they do get funding. Carol said Jay said something similar to what Grayson just said. You've been on Jay's show, haven't you?
Mm,
You been on Jay Bundy's channel?
no, I have not.
No, you haven't been over there yet? Oh, okay.
Not yet.
You should join in sometime. It's a good time over there.
Okay.
You'll see a lot of familiar faces and stuff drop by over there.
Cool. I'll check it out.
Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, Grayson knows speed.
Yep.
He was. We were all on the same stream the one day over there. And Randy wants to know if you've met Danny yet.
Is this Danny who has a TikTok presence, Danny?
He's probably I know he's on YouTube.
Okay. Just yesterday I saw somebody named Danny in my streams talking about like expanding your audience on TikTok. So I was talking to him a little bit in emails about that, but beyond that, I haven't had like an actual like voice conversation with Danny. I don't really know him very well. Yeah, Phil Talk.
Danny's a pretty smart guy.
Cool.
Let's see. Maya, good to see you. Andrew, good to see you. Andrew says genetic entropy is a scientific reality. Said no geneticists ever, right?
I have to make an exception just because the guy that invented genetic entropy, Sanford, is technically a geneticist, but you know, it I mean he invented genetic entropy. I'm pretty sure that he's like a bad faith actor. I think that he knows too much about genetics to be making the kinds of arguments that he makes.
Does he
But
work under a statement of faith?
well, he used to have an actual like career and everything. Like he invented the gene gun. That's like a commonly used like biotechnology. Um, so like he definitely has some credentials and some chops as a geneticist. I think Nathaniel Jeanson too. I'm pretty sure. Maybe he doesn't have a degree in genetics, but he has like a PhD from Harvard. And the dude, like both of these guys, are working at like creation science institutes or whatever. They're total hacks. But I don't know if they actually believe this stuff, or like if they've, put on the blinders enough to and drank the Kool-Aid to where they're actually believing this, and they're somehow existing in this state of cognitive dissonance between what they've learned about genetics and what they have to believe about genetics in order to maintain their religious beliefs. I don't know how they hold both of those ideas. I don't know how their mind exists in that state of cognitive dissonance, but somehow at least two of them are walking it. But again, these are not like geneticists that are doing actual. I mean, Sanford's retired. Jeanson just writes creation books and articles. So, I think, I guess they're technically geneticists, but
Yeah, Carol was mentioning. Do you know Leo?
Yeah, Leo Filius. Yeah, I've done a
Yeah,
debate
okay.
with Leo.
Yeah, she was mentioning you and Leo and Danny are all about the same age.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I knew that Leo was around that age.
And I still don't know how to say this person's name. Help me out. Sapir Ode? Is that how you say it? I know I saw somebody pronounce it and I forgot already. Forgive me.
Well, his last name has the same root as my last name, so in French that would be Ode.
Well, we'll go with Ode. Yeah, when Jesus said, "Let he who is without sin cast the first stone," he was really just trying to call dibs on going first.
True. He could totally cast that first stone in their framework.
Randy realized he was a non-believer before he was a teenager.
Oh, good for you, Randy. Smart one over here.
Chris Moore says hello.
Hey, Chris.
Big Bad Mama says the first church I set foot in was Westminster Abbey
Oh,
when I was 8.
wow.
That would be really neat.
Royalty over here. Big bad queen.
That would be really neat. And I have the church I went to when I was a kid, and then I was confirmed and I was married there. It's a beautiful church. It's all stonework, and I have no ill wills against the church. I think a lot of the churches are, beautiful buildings and everything. I'm just not a believer. That's all.
Hmm.
But yeah, some of them old ones in Europe and some of the other countries, beautiful. I mean, they spent a lot of, artistic lifetimes, building those things. It's really they're amazing. Big Bad Mama, can you please ask Grayson who he thinks are the most convincing debaters on the science atheist side? Yeah, we're going to get to that in just a second, Big Bad Mama. I got a few notes here about his debates, so we'll cover that in just a second. We're just about through all the comments.
Oh, wait, here we go. I am seeing that he's saying that it's Latin, so not French, but it's a Latin phrase, "superior," which is like dare to know, I guess. I know that "ode" is Latin for dare, and I'm pretty sure "sapere" is knowledge or to know or something. So, like, I'm thinking it means like dare to know.
Yeah, he was on, maybe it was Mike's stream and somebody, they pronounced it and everything. And I was like, I got to remember how to pronounce that. And I forgot.
I think it would be "sapere ode."
I'm going to have to look it up now afterwards. So I'll get the pronunciation down and stick it in my head better.
Well, I know Ota because I said like my last name has that like as a root. It's French, but it still has the root. So I knew that Ota was Latin for to dare. So I knew that just from family motto kind of stuff with Latin. So I'm pretty sure it means dare to know.
It sounds familiar.
Because
But he
my
said,
my family's motto is "Odete winshit," which is like dare and win. So that's how I knew that one. But I haven't heard this exact phrase, "Sapere ode." Yeah, he's saying in the
says,
comments, dare to
yeah,
know.
okay. It's so weird that flat earthers try to use empirical evidence to support their beliefs when pretty much all of them believe it because of faith and their interpretation of the Bible, right? And that's the argument they like to set up, that it's either science or the Bible, and it's just a bad argument all around. Big Bad Mama says the flurfers should be mocked, not debated.
Well, then I don't
I do
understand.
mock them.
I don't understand, one, why those two are mutually exclusive, and
Yeah.
two, why flurfers would be any different in any different category as creationists. To be honest, I've got them on equal footing. So if I'm gonna debate the creationists, then I gotta debate the flat earthers too. I don't think that one is better than the other.
And this and this and this. All right, I think we covered a lot of the questions. Yeah, and so like what Big Bad Mama was just saying, yeah, we'll get to my notes here about some of the debates and whatnot, and we'll start talking about that now. So let me see here. Let me get back to where I accidentally hit the scroll here. Forgive me. I got to find my spot again. Okay. So we were at the engaging in debates and why you got into it,
Mm-hmm.
and when you started your channel. Okay, good. All right, this is where I was. Okay, so we have to talk about, should you ask Chat GPT? What
Should
do
you
you
ask
have to
what?
say? Can
Um, I have mixed
You
feelings on
had
it.
an interesting discussion about the Chat GPT, and
Yes.
I want to mention people's names because they aren't here to defend themselves. So
So
we'll
yeah,
leave the
I
other
won't.
person's name out. But
Yeah.
what did you have to say about the Chat
So
GPT
I have
argument?
very mixed feelings on ChatGPT. On the one hand, I've been using it myself, and I really like it for asking it questions instead of like Googling something. I've really been enjoying using ChatGPT. It's actually been like a really cool tool to augment my own like learning and research. But I have encountered a few issues, and my video with a certain creationist using ChatGPT highlights some of these at least. But the issues I encountered were, I would ask it for something that was like very niche, like in biochemistry, asking if a certain protein has a certain binding domain, or I think I asked it about like genetic regulation, or I asked it about like a certain fossil specimen, and it would give me an answer. I'm like, wow, that's really interesting. That fossil specimen has a pelvis bone, or that enzyme binds to that area of the DNA. And then I would say, that's weird. I didn't know that, but that's why I asked it, because I didn't know. So then I'll ask, could you provide a citation for that? And ChatGPT says, sure, happy to. Gives me a citation. Then I look, there is no such thing as that paper. Those authors have never published together in that year. I'm like, that's weird. This paper doesn't exist. I'll ask it, hey, ChatGPT, can you give me a link to that paper? And then it gives me a bunk link that doesn't lead anywhere. And I'm like, did you just make that up? And then ChatGPT says, oh, my apologies. Sorry, you called me on my bullshit. Yeah, that was all false. I won't do that again. I'm like, what? And that's happened to me multiple times. So like, you really have to double check and fact check some of the things that ChatGPT is telling you, because it's not all accurate. And a lot of what it does say, I'm like, I'm impressed at. I'm like, wow, that was a really eloquent, or like that was a really great way of communicating these complex ideas. And like I'm impressed with a lot of ChatGPT's answers. But then other times it's like that was complete 100% unadulterated bullcrap. So you get back and forth, and then you have creationists that at least one of them was spending hours training ChatGPT to try to make ChatGPT agree with creationism. And they were successful after enough hours, right? They were not asking ChatGPT questions. They were telling ChatGPT, here's how it is. Here's the truth. And then when ChatGPT would say something, they would correct it and say, no, 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 say this. And then eventually, after this whole process, they could train ChatGPT to then agree with them. And ChatGPT was agreeing to all kinds of stuff from like, oh, Noah's grandson's the progenitor of all Eurasians, or, oh, yeah, you don't need an expanding universe model. With general relativity explains everything. And like literally, you could get ChatGPT to say all kinds of random craziness. In fact, it wasn't until the day after I had this discussion. Unfortunately, I really wish that I had been made aware of this before I had that discussion. But the day after I had this whole breakdown with ChatGPT and a creationist, I came across a guy that successfully convinced ChatGPT to agree that 2 + 2 = 5. So like he just kept saying, no, 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 2 + 2 is 5. ChatGPT disagrees. He's like, no, 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 you're wrong. It is 2 + 2 is 5. And he kept saying that long enough to where it actually trained ChatGPT to say, yeah, 2 + 2 is 5. You're correct. And like, this is the problem. So if you ever see anybody trying to use ChatGPT as some sort of supportive evidence for their claims, take it with a huge grain of salt, because with enough work, you can literally get ChatGPT to agree with and say just about anything.
That's what I learned watching your engagement.
Yeah.
It was interesting.
And this is like a totally new territory. Like I didn't know that you could get ChatGPT.
I didn't know anything. So yeah, I learned a lot just hearing what you guys were talking about.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And it was a really frustrating discussion because I didn't really know all that going into it. I definitely did not think that he was going to be getting ChatGPT to like literally agree with like Noah's flood and stuff. But then, yeah, in the day afterwards, I was seeing more stuff, and I was seeing more things that not creationists, but just people messing and trolling ChatGPT have gotten it to say, and like, yeah, you definitely you can get it to
heads
say
up out there, everybody. You're getting the heads up, so you already know. As soon as you hear it, you can roll your eyes and say, "I don't even want to go there," because you already know that.
Or better yet,
train it.
like what I did whenever a creationist would say, well, here's what ChatGPT agreed with me about this crazy thing. I literally just copied and pasted what they said into ChatGPT and asked it, is this true or is this false? And I just copied and pasted exactly what they said. And ChatGPT, when it's not been like when you just have the normal version of it and you haven't trained it through all of this, like, to try to agree with you, ChatGPT clearly will just say, no, that's false. Like,
and please
vanilla model.
And please let Grayson copy and paste it, because the other way is really, really slow.
Yeah.
Painfully slow. Again, I'm not going to name names, but it was painfully slow.
Yeah, the next time I do any kind of discussion in that format, I'm going to be the one who's doing the screen sharing, and I'm going to be doing the one that's doing the typing, because when you have somebody else that wants to be in control and doesn't want to let anybody else do the typing, but is interminably slow at it, it can make for painful viewing.
All right. And of course, we have to mention, well, you already mentioned his name, but dogs always make dogs. Okay.
Yeah.
And I heard last night that you're going to go one more round because you're just a glutton for punishment, I guess. So
yeah,
what do you think about your debates with the Hovind himself?
You know what? They were pretty fun. I gotta say, the I've had fun like after both of them. At a certain point, we all know what Kent Hovind is going to say. He sticks to the script. He doesn't bring any new arguments. You've heard it all before. I've been hearing the arguments since middle school, so I knew what he was going to say, and it was a lot of fun to just deconstruct and take down each one of his arguments and show why they're stupid, and then for him to go on and make them after I've shown how they're so stupid. So it's just like there's a lot of comedic value. I felt like my second debate with him I enjoyed better than the first one because it was not structured. It was just a back and forth. So there wasn't a whole bunch of 10-minute speeches going on. And that second one was a lot of fun for me. I brought up a lot of points that I just felt like Kent really had absolutely no answer to. And so that's what I plan on doing for the third one. I figured, you got to do a trilogy. So this is my third. This is the grand finale. This is the end game. I think I said Return of the King. So that I'm going to be, seeing how this third one goes, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm hoping, and don't let Kent know, but I'm hoping that by choosing to have a topic about the fossil record and the order of the fossil record, that I can basically get him to do a debate on like Noah's flood on trial, rather than, all of his debates are always about evolution on trial. Tell me the evidence for evolution. We all know that it's not going to make any difference. He's not going to listen to anything that you say. So I'm hoping for this last one that I can sort of indirectly get the topic to functionally be showing everyone why Kent's ideas about a global flood are ludicrous and silly.
Are you going to get a Hawaiian shirt?
No, probably not.
Speaking of Hawaiian shirt, we watched Ian last night.
Yeah.
What did you think about that one? How did Ian?
That was one of my
Ian's
favorite
approach?
One of my favorite Kent Hovind debates, honestly.
It's not his first. It's not his first one either. So
yeah, that's his second one.
I'm an Ian fan from before. So yeah.
Yeah. So the things that I thought that Ian did that were spectacular was that he focused on Kent's arguments. So he really didn't spend a lot of time trying to establish or demonstrate the veracity of evolution. And he spent most of the time illustrating why Kent's same old arguments are stupid and illogical. And I thought he did a great job with that. And he also got in a few jabs there of like a few great insults.
I grabbed my son's. I was watching and then we were eating, so
yeah,
I transferred to the TV. So we were watching on the TV while we're eating, and a couple of his comments came up, and I said, "Oh, give me your phone. I got to message myself so I don't forget those digs." So I was messaging myself on my son's phone. Some of Ian's digs. They were.
I
good.
mean, I love
the crayons one. The crayons one is a classic. It's
during that debate, I was either like laughing or I was like, oh, like I was like, I was like, the posse in the back with like the diss track. I was just like, oh, he really just said that. Like I was like, it was so good. One of the most entertaining ones I've seen with Kent. And like obviously he doesn't address any of these points. I mean, he dodges every single time, and he goes right back to his script. But that's the nature of a Kent Hovind debate. You can't really expect him to do anything at this point. He's not doing anything.
They're
different.
all the same. Ray Comfort, Ken Ham, it doesn't matter. They have their script. They've been doing it for decades. And they're not going to change. So, and what you were just mentioning there is what kind of structure do you like with the debates?
I'm definitely not a very formal, organized kind of personality. So I really like the informal structure. The only amount of structure that I really like is just to prevent two things from happening. If these two things don't happen, then I think it's a good debate. One, interrupting. I really, really hate like when there's a lot of interrupting, and I know hypocritical. Sometimes I interrupt. We're all guilty of interrupting
It
sometimes, but
happens. Yeah.
managing it to where it's at a level where it's still enjoyable to listen to, and it's not just you can't hear anything and it's frustrating to listen to. Like I'll turn off a debate if there's too much interrupting. It's just not pleasant on the ears. So keeping the interrupting at a manageable level. And then the second thing is ensuring that somebody doesn't just go off on a huge spiel, delivering a speech where they're bringing up 15 different topics, and they keep saying, "Oh, I'm about to make my point. I'm about to make my point," and then they never get to the point, and they keep bringing up multiple points on the way there, and I hate that. And you need to interrupt that, but then if the moderator stops you from interrupting, I hate that. So as long as there's enough formal structure to keep people to make one point and then respond to it in an orderly way that's not a lot of interrupting, that's what I think is the perfect format for a debate. So I hate the whole 10-minute openings, 8-minute rebuttals, and blah, 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 blah. I really don't like a lot of that stuff. So,
And we have to mention the Sal, Rebecca, and Leo was your partner, right?
yes.
The Big Bang debate. So,
Yes.
what is the big fascination all of a sudden with the big? Because it really, it was always kind of just one of those things of they just said, I don't believe in that Big Bang, and that was about it. But lately, it seems to be surfacing with more of they're pushing these arguments. So,
It's got to
what did
be
you
the
think
James
about
Webb. I think that it's
it?
got
Is
to
it?
be all this news with the James Webb Telescope, where you had Eric Lerner come out very early on, whenever the data for James Webb was releasing, saying, "Hey, the Big Bang's been disproven," and that got a ton of viral hits, and everybody was reading it, and it sort of sparked this whole issue again for a lot of the fundamentalists, and saying, "Oh, well, didn't you hear that new space telescope disproved the Big Bang?" And like that idea kind of got out there to the public.
And
So
speaking of Andrew Cummings is in the chat.
uh-huh.
He did a talk about that on Mike's channel when that
Mhm.
disinformation was first coming out.
Yeah. So I think that's a lot to do with it. Um, yeah, Eric Lerner has been driving a lot of that. His name came up a lot in that debate. I also, since I did that on Modern Day Debates, I went and I had 2 follow-ups. One just one-on-one with Rebecca, and another one-on-one with Sal. And because the way that they did that format on Modern Day Debates, I felt like
My whole afternoon.
yeah.
Was it 4 hours?
Yeah, that was the me and Sal, the one-on-one debate was
That was a
4
long
hours.
hauler.
Yeah.
I was doing other things and listening in the background because I just couldn't sit that long. You
Yeah.
guys, I don't know how you got massage chairs or something to keep the
No.
blood flow going or what?
I know, huh? I should get one, honestly, but yeah, that was testing my patience a lot. And then what was funny is that we got to a point in that debate where Sal literally just said that nothing Grayson says is valid because he's Grayson and you can't trust his thought process. That's the point that we got in the debate, was that he just stopped listening to literally anything that I said because I'm the one saying it. That's where we got. So I still think it's worth listening to because a lot of really great points were made, and like we actually got into the meat of the discussion, which is something that did not happen in the 2v2 debate, because the format that they insisted on this format of saying, we have 10 minutes, you have 10 minutes, then we have 10 minutes, and you have 10 minutes. And for their 10 minutes, they literally just did a new PowerPoint presentation each time. So they did 3 10-minute presentations, and that's it. They didn't engage with anything that we said. They didn't listen to any of our arguments. Literally everything that they said was already pre-planned, regardless of what Leo and I said. So it was really
Guess who wrote it all out?
yeah, Sal. And then and then Sal actually wants to do a follow-up debate with me in this month on genetic entropy. And he said, Grayson was very, very, very rude to me the last time we debated. So I will only debate him again if we have the condition that there's absolutely no interrupting and I got to talk however long I want to talk, and then Grayson can have equal time afterwards. And I said, well, fine, I guess. That doesn't sound very fun. It sounds like a lot of people are just gonna have to listen to you talk forever. But I said, fine, if you get that condition, I want my condition to be that there are no PowerPoint slides. And then he said, how dare you? You're trying to tie my hands behind my back and you're trying to prevent me from making as good of an argument as I can. I need those PowerPoint slides in order to make my argument the best way I can. And then, like, literally, he just blew up on me and saying I'm trying to handicap him or something that he can't have PowerPoints. I'm like, dude, I didn't bring any PowerPoints to any of my debates. Like,
One of my
you don't need,
notes. One of my notes here is Sal's slides.
yeah. So
It's
he said,
self-explanatory.
and get this, he says he wants minimum 30 minutes worth of presentation PowerPoint slide time. He wants 30-minute presentation. I'm like, oh my God, dude.
My problem. What Sal does is the Deepak Chopra approach. He uses a lot of words that we don't know. And he knows most of the audience are people like me. And I have a fair understanding of science. I'm not a scientist or anything, but I understand enough, right? But I'm lost. Whenever Sal is talking, I'm lost. Now, when you're talking or Andrew is talking, you're trying to explain things to me, and I appreciate that. But Sal is intentionally, and there was the famous thing, there was a physicist that stood up at one of Deepak's talks, and he told Deepak, he said, I know all the words you're using, but not the way you're using them in a sentence.
Yeah.
And I get the feeling that that's the tactic Sal uses is he knows all the words and he can throw them around, and he knows that most of us in the audience are either going to think, I don't have a clue, or wow, what a genius he is with all these big words, And what do you think? Do you think that's a tactic that he's using?
Oh, I mean, it absolutely is. I mean, you have to think about so in talking with Sal, I mean, there were a lot of the points where he would say, oh, that was a really good argument that you made. I really had no answer. And I'm like, oh, that's weird because you did answer and it was a bunch of BS. Like you like literally, it was just like such a political answer that yeah, you could tell he didn't have an answer, but he'll never admit that he doesn't have an answer. I mean, he's got to say something. So there are times where he'll say, oh, well, there's some new technology maybe that's coming out that's going to help explain that, or oh, there's some mechanism that we don't know about yet, but that it's gonna happen and it's gonna explain this. And like he wants to accuse I don't know, there's a lot of projection because he accuses other people of doing that, but it's absolutely what he's doing. And I mean, a lot of his audience, I mean, he says that on his channel, he's like, oh, we've got a lot of graduate students. We've got a lot of PhDs on here. And we're a very high level science channel. We go into into the weeds and we go in and discuss all of these point by point in the scientific articles. But I kind of got to think that most of his audience has got to be a lay audience. Like, you don't build an audience of PhDs and graduate students. So I feel like a lot of the especially not like a creationist crowd. So I would assume that if he does have an audience, that it would largely be creationist lay people, that he's basically just posturing as saying, hey, look, I've got these degrees. I worked on space engines and I've studied biochemistry and I have all these publications, and he wants to put on the airs that he's a professional scientist and that you should trust him because he knows the scientific terminology. He's using the big words. He's one of the scientists, but he's not going to lie to you. He's not going to tell you about theory of evolution and the Big Bang. He's going to tell you what you want to hear. He's going to tell you that, he believes in the Bible just like you. And all these science people, you know, you don't have to believe in evolution and the Big Bang just because you know all the science like Sal does. Like, he's definitely trying to project that image.
And I pointed out, you mentioned Nathaniel Jeanson, and
Mhm.
he's, yeah, we had a few words, and he wasn't very nice to me. But
Oh, wow, really?
I was
Like,
back on when he first started his Replacing Darwin
yeah.
Facebook page. Yeah, I was among the group that was all deleted like the first day
Wow.
that he put it up. And I
It's
know most
very
of the other people that were all deleted off of there too. So,
I honestly don't know, like, because his ideas are so easy to debunk, like,
well, my
so easy.
point was that it just seems like a sad waste of brain power because, like you said, even if it's compartmentalized, right?
Mhm.
You would think that, even Sal, could be doing something productive. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Well, he
Curing
used to be an
something,
engineer.
or building a better gear or whatever he
Yeah,
was
but he
doing.
used to be an
Something
engineer. I
useful.
mean, he's got he's got
Mhm.
productive potential to contribute to society, but he's spending it arguing about, magic, uh, fairies and whatever, like
Right.
talking snakes, whatever they think.
Well, Nathaniel, when he tells his early story, he had aspirations to cure cancer,
Wow.
and he sits in a cubicle, appeasing Ken Ham instead. And
Yeah,
it's just to me, it's a crying shame because obviously he has like you said, he has the brain power
he got a
to graduate
PhD.
from Harvard, to even
Yeah,
get into Harvard. Because
yeah,
getting into Harvard's not easy to do. And then it just to sit in a cubicle, it just seems like, just a
yeah.
really a sad waste. So. But did Sal show you his books?
Um, like, he busted out some,
Have you
you
ever
know,
seen the Sal video where he showed everybody his books?
no.
Okay. You'll have to look it up later. I think is that the chat will have to help me out. Was that might have been the talk with Danny, maybe? Uh, Sal was talking about he knows all the math, he knows all the math. And somebody was asking him, again, somebody in the know, because I don't know. But one of the other guys knows math, and he was just throwing some questions at him, to kind of test him. Well, then you know what this is, right? All of a sudden, Sal starts getting stumped and everything, and he looked really bad. So he made a retort video, and he pulled out all the
Own
textbooks,
books.
all the math textbooks he had from his classes, and he was showing them all to the camera. Do you see this book? This is and then he slam, and he gets another. This is the book. It's a classic. Yeah,
Wow.
you'll come across it sooner or later, I'm sure. But
Wow. Yeah.
if you hear the
Somebody,
Sal's
somebody,
books thing,
somebody, please send me that video. It's criticalbasedinquiries@gmail.com.
somebody please send it to him. It's that's when you tick Sal off. Sal is he tries to be that super overly nice thing about, oh,
Yeah.
please, thank you, please, oh, thank you, please, please, please. And as soon as you cross him,
Yep.
trust me, I got doomed to hell.
Wow.
Sal don't like to be crossed. So,
Yeah.
all right, well, enough of Sal because he got enough airtime. Then you had another talk with T-Rock,
Hmm.
and he's also a creationist, right?
Oh yeah. Another creationist engineer.
Well, you see, you found a few of them that you've engaged with, so
Yep.
you're
Well,
you're
these
get
so
you're getting there.
well, so almost all the creationists that have been willing to engage with me have only been willing to engage with me on Standing for Truth's channel, or it's been mediated by Standing for Truth as setting them all up. So none of them have been directly approaching me to debate me. Most of them have been like via Standing for Truth. So that was how I met T Rock. And yeah, they're going to be doing another debate with T Rock coming up. But T Rock is probably, I mean, these are all to some degree exemplars of Dunning Kruger, but T Rock really, to me,
I tried to pick out some gems.
yeah. What do you have the quotes or
Yeah, I wanted to ask you because he was talking about the Devil's Tower and that you had actually been to the Devil's Tower.
Yep.
And I thought that was a great engagement because when somebody brings some up and then when you said, "Oh, I've been there," I think he kind of stumbled for a minute and was like,
Yeah.
"Oh crap, he's actually been there."
Yeah, it's a really cool monument.
But he had it was really bad arguments and
Yeah.
uh
Oh, you could say that.
well his
Definitely.
big argument that I wanted to point out what he left out is that when that thing formed, it was deep in the earth. And it took a long time just pushing its way up to even surface and then, come up out of the ground. And he's
Mhm.
completely left out all that time span
Yep.
of it, forming in the earth. He takes it from already as is fully exposed
Yeah.
and then eroding away, totally
Well, that's
leaving
his
all.
bias, obviously, because when he thinks of the starting positions for these things, he's thinking about, the starting position is a perfect idyllic state, fully formed, and it's all just gone eroded and degenerated from that. So that's like he cannot get away from that level of thinking.
And then he went down the hit list. The moon recession. That's a classic creationist argument. And
Yep.
that is one I actually sat down with a creationist that got out a calculator with me.
Mhm.
And he said, "Wow, I'm not going to listen to Eric Hovind anymore." So that was a small victory that, yeah, if you actually get a calculator out and show, look, what they're telling you doesn't even add up on a calculator, forget all the variables. Before you even get into all the variables, it doesn't add up on a calculator. They haven't even, that's how little fact checking they'll do. They'll make this claim and they never actually even just punch the number up on a calculator just to make sure they're even close because they're not. And he
Well,
also
I
hit
feel like
on
if creationists could do the math properly, then they obviously would not be creationists.
right,
So
obviously. And he went down the list of C14 in the diamonds. And I always ask, where do the herds of diamonds roam?
yeah,
They don't understand that. No, when they do C14, it's on things that were alive.
yeah,
Where were the diamonds running around at? That one just it always just irks me because it's just so terrible. That's just a basic level understanding that it's not organic.
yeah. I think they bring it up just to try to say like, oh well, if there's C14 in diamonds, how come like, oh, if this diamond was formed millions of years ago, how is there C14 in it? And like, yeah, they missed the point that one, nobody's carbon dating diamonds. Nobody's even carbon dating bones, which is the second thing that T Rock put in. Like usually like bone material is not carbon dated. Um, but like yeah, the thing with the diamonds is very silly. And I pointed out, I gave him examples. I mean, I gave him answers whenever he was posing questions. I said,
Mhm.
like, well, let's see. The number one biggest impurity that's found in diamonds is nitrogen 14. Now, what is it that that it like decay? What creates carbon 14? What's that created from? Oh, right, nitrogen 14. Isn't that weird? How the precursor to carbon 14 is found in diamonds, where you find carbon 14. Huh. I wonder how that works. Like there are completely naturalistic explanations that
I
like
like
make
I love that
logical
answer.
they
I
make
love that
logical
answer. Yeah, it was a
yeah, they
good
make
job with
logical
that
sense.
answer.
And yeah, I mean it just
Well, he
it,
was playing the playlist, and he hit soft tissue, claiming there was blood cells. There was no blood
yeah.
cells. Claiming there was DNA. There's no
That
DNA.
was that was what was the craziest thing to me, because I had never encountered, I have seen creationists take Mary Schweitzer's work out of context. That's usually with the dinosaur soft tissues. So when he told me that he wanted to debate with dinosaur soft
And
tissues,
if anybody wants to hear it from herself, I know she's been on Paula Gia's channel
wow.
talking herself, telling you herself. So don't take anybody else's word for it. You can hear Mary herself answering these
Wow.
questions. Go listen to her.
I'll definitely have to listen to that video. I didn't know that she'd been on Paulogia, but yeah. So of course, I was familiar with all of those arguments before, but I had never heard anybody make the claim that we have found dinosaur DNA. And T-Rock did make that claim in that debate. He literally
And
said,
he told
"Oh,
you were wrong too.
yeah," he said, "No,
He
Grayson, you're
repeated, "Oh, you
wrong."
don't know what you don't know what you need. What you need to do some research or
Yeah, he's
one of
so
those comebacks."
condescending. Like, that's why I said he's probably the worst example of a Dunning-Kruger that I've encountered, because you have people that, standing for truth thinks that he knows stuff about genetics and endogenous retroviruses. You'll have, Kent Hovind thinks that he's God's gift to mankind. Like, he's got a 165 IQ. All these people fundamentally think that they're smarter than all the experts. But
Sure.
I've never seen anybody like as deluded as T-Rock is, where he's literally saying, "No, you're wrong. Einstein's wrong. Every expert in the world is wrong. I'm the only one that can see it as it is. Only me and creationministries.com. We're the only ones that are seeing the data and able to accurately interpret what the evidence shows." And it's like the arrogance that you have to think that, like, he knows, like, planetary physics, geophysics. He knows quantum physics. He knows general relativity. He knows all these fields better than the experts in those fields. Like, Jesus.
And of course he mentioned the erosion one too, with
Yep.
the total lack of understanding of a dynamic Earth. I mean,
Yep.
I've heard this one used a lot, and it's like, okay, I'm tired of hearing it. And when I heard him, I was like, yep, he's going right down the playlist. So
Yep. That was interesting though, because geology is not one of my stronger areas. So doing some research, and I reached out and emailed several geologists in preparation for that section of the debate. And yeah, that was really fun to get to learn a lot about geology.
and hey, that's it is when people hear that, that is what we want to hear. That no, Grayson just didn't hit Wikipedia. Grayson sent emails to some geologists and actually asked them. And kudos to you. And that, that's a great argument when you say, hey, by the way, I just didn't Google this. I've got, however many emails from these geologists,
Yeah, it
So
was actually really cool, because I wasn't just finding like random geologists at my local community college or whatever. Like, I was actually like Googling, okay, who are the geologists that are actively doing research in erosion, specifically on continental erosion? And then I put in those keywords. I emailed a bunch of them. I received responses back. And I even emailed a guy that had literally written the definitive review article, like, in 2020, about the geologic history from like an erosion perspective of the continents, from like the Hadean period through the Archean, like through the history of the Earth. And he had literally written the whole thing. And he's like, I got to hear from that guy. So like literally like the expert in the field. That is just like, this is a bunch of nonsense. I don't know why anyone would make this. Like, he literally did not even understand T-Rock's argument. I tried to say, like, they think that erosion rates are too fast and all the continents would be eroded if there were millions of years. And like, he literally could not even comprehend like how that argument was logically structured or how it could make logical sense. Like, he just knew too much about geology to be able to even understand what T-Rock was talking about.
we'll hit on one more, and then we'll ask you what your greatest hits was, and that is David McQueen and his whiteboard. Now,
Yep.
I know you were driving when you were talking to him.
Yeah.
But what do you think about McQueen and his 1970s science?
I freaking love McQueen, man.
He's everybody's grandpa, isn't he?
He's one of the only creationists I have ever encountered that says that he's the only one that I've ever heard like the phrase, you know what? We don't have a good answer to that come out of his mouth. He will fully admit, he's like, you know what? That's a big problem. We don't have any good explanations. I'm trying to come up with an explanation. I think maybe I have an idea, but we don't have anything solid. And he'll just tell you that. And it's like, wow, that's really refreshing. I mean, it's
Yeah.
still you still believe it, and that's fine. But like the fact that like I'll ask him, hey, where are all of the pre-flood human fossils? And he's like, oh yeah, they're all missing. We don't know. They should be there and they're not. And like he'll admit to that. I think at times I've heard him speculate that oh, there's actually like ground up human remains in the oil that we drill out of deep sea like oil rigs. And he's like, oh, maybe it's the human remains and the remains of pottery and the archaeological sites, they're all getting crushed up in oil rigs. I'm like, okay, dude. But usually, he will actually admit whenever they cannot explain something, they don't have a model for something, they don't have a good answer. So I at least appreciate McQueen for that. He told me, he's like, we don't have a good explanation for like when we were talking about the sorting of the fossil records, and I was bringing up stuff like plankton, which they can never explain.
I was going to bring up the plankton. He tried to start explaining it, and I think he lost his train of thought because
well,
all of a sudden he just stopped and he said, "But I guess we don't know." And he, I love the whiteboard. I love the whiteboard.
So in the months, I think that was around Christmas. And so David,
yeah, because he said Merry Christmas to you.
Yeah. So McQueen has been really wanting to have another opportunity to have the discussion. And I didn't really want to do it because he talks really slowly. And I felt like we covered all the points in that last discussion.
He is severely outdated too. He cites a lot of stuff because he's been retired for how long? So but he's out of the loop on a lot of things.
But Standing for Truth was really trying to get me to debate with him. So what we've actually ended up setting up is on May 4th, I'm going to be having a back-to-back debate with T-Rock and McQueen. And it's going to be the same topic, same night, back-to-back. And it's going to be about exactly that, the ordering of the fossil record, the ordering of the fossils into layers. So we're going to be talking about the plankton. They said apparently McQueen and T-Rock were both really interested in the plankton question. So they think that they have some kind of answer, some kind of explanatory model. I'm all ears. I'll hear them out, whatever they can come up with, man. I'm interested to hear what they got.
Well, let's hit the big question then on all the debates that you've done so far then. Which one is what you would consider your best and your worst debate, and why?
Oh man. So for best, the first one that comes to mind is honestly that second debate with Kent Hovind. I really thought I improved a lot of the things that I felt I could have done better in the first debate, and really that second debate I felt like it went totally perfect. So I remember when that ended, I was feeling really, really good about that debate. And then the debate that was the worst one, that it ended, and I honestly felt like that was not any fun. That was really frustrating. That I didn't feel like it was a good discussion. I didn't feel like it was worth my time. I didn't feel like it. Like I was embarrassed that it was even out there. Was one of the conversations I had with Standing for Truth. It wasn't like maybe it was our third conversation or something. But I really hate that debate to this day. And I uploaded it to my channel on I think I just call it my most frustrating debate.
You got to own it. You got to own it. And don't run away from it. Own it.
And the reason why I dislike this one so much, actually listening back to it, there were actually a lot of really great moments and it was really entertaining, mostly because I was losing my cool. So a lot of the times in debates, people are like, how does Grayson maintain so calm when people are insulting him? And if for me, like I definitely do get riled up, but it's not with like personal insults. Don't really trigger me that much. I get really riled up when people are interrupting, and then all like reflectively, all start interrupting them, and all start trying to press on them to get them to shut up. and like I'll get really riled up and I'll lose my calm from the interrupting.
Well,
But I also
the moderator should be a little
yeah,
better on it too.
but I also lose my cool when people are like the specific thing that Donnie was doing in that debate was that he challenged me like at 1 a.m. to like an impromptu, a non-formal, non-planned discussion. It was supposed to be a podcast discussion, not even a debate, on the out of Africa genetic bottleneck. So I said, okay, fine, interesting. So then I do it, and the whole time he didn't want to talk about the out of Africa genetic bottleneck. And I kept thinking, when is he going to get to the out of Africa genetic? That was the topic. That's what I prepared to discuss. And I realized about halfway through that debate that he flat out did not know that what he was talking about was a different topic. What he wanted to talk about was the bottleneck, the population bottleneck that occurred within Africa much before the out of Africa migrations. So this was like, when the human population was reduced to like its lowest level, like 100,000 plus years ago, like the genetic bottlenecks that occurred within the continent of Africa, which is not what I thought the topic was going to be. So I entertain his questions about this for the first 30, almost 40 minutes or so. And then I'm like, Donnie, why haven't we gotten to the question yet? And he will not move on to talk about out of Africa. And I'm like, dude, like I was told that was the topic. He comes in, he wants to talk about a different topic. I'm trying to get to talk about the topic. It's like 2 a.m. now, 2:30 a.m. And like, he told me it was going to be an hour-long discussion. It ends up being like an hour and 40 minutes. And like he never acknowledges that we never got to the topic of discussion. He will never drop something. Like when I'm trying to move on, he will not drop it. And I'm just getting frustrated to this point. I'm like, Donnie, you're not answering any of my questions. You keep asking me the same thing over and over and over again, even though we've hit bedrock on this, and you will not move on. You're like a dog that just keeps like chewing on this bone. I'm like, drop it. And I was just getting really frustrated with him, and I lost my cool. I started calling him Dodgeball Donnie, and I started talking over him and being a bit rude, and I lost my cool a bit. And then really, I don't like doing opening and closing statements. And so when it got to the point when Donnie said, okay, well, I'm just going to do a 5-minute closing statement, and then you can do your 5-minute closing statement. You can have the last word, Grayson. And I'm just listening to him spout the same thing he's been saying the whole debate in his closing statement. I'm just like, man, screw this. I really just wanted to like exit out, and like I didn't want to have anything to do with him or the conversation anymore. I was checked out. I was done. And so I just like was like, you know what? I don't even have a closing statement. This was not any fun. Like you kept me here like an hour after you promised. It's 3 in the goddamn morning at this point. And I was just like, I was tired. I was cranky. I wanted to go to bed. So that was my worst debate, just because I lost it. I checked out. I didn't want to be there. And I got, I was just over it. So my attitude wise, that's why I was done with that debate. So yeah, that was a long-winded answer, but that was my best and worst debates, in my opinion.
Well, then to the flip side, what Big Bad Mama was asking, who do you think does well in either your debates or any debates, atheist or on the theist side?
I think Aaron Ra does a really great job. Sometimes he can be a little bit, I don't know if the word insulting is the best word, but he doesn't treat him with kitty gloves. He's not exactly cordial. I mean, he'll be insulting about, like, he'll insult the ideology. He'll talk about how things are stupid, and he'll poke fun. And, I find that stuff is really entertaining. Sometimes I think it doesn't really help the debate, but I still appreciate it. And I think that Aaron Ra is definitely like really, really knowledgeable about phylogenetics and evolution. And he really makes his points really, really well articulated. So yeah, I probably would have to say I would say Aaron Ra.
And you mentioned the after shows. You have a lot more fun doing the after shows because it seems like you had a lot of fun last night.
Yeah, I definitely have fun in the after shows. I really would have more fun if just more people I disagreed with were just constantly like new faces would just be like funneling in, finding out the channel, joining, and trying to like call in and offer a challenge. That's what I would find really fun. So if I could get to the point where like new people are coming by and new challengers are coming forward, that's what I would really have a lot of fun with. So I know I probably need to expand out into TikTok, expand out into Clubhouse, into Discord, and start to find these interlocutors, to try to get to that point where I want to be at, where I can sort of, because I'm starting to get some familiar faces, and a lot of the new challengers are not coming through out of the woodworks yet.
Well, that I was just going to ask if you're on any other platforms, so you haven't really looked into them yet. But
I need to
you
make
might,
a Discord. I need to make a Discord. I need to get on Clubhouse and TikTok. So those are what I need to expand to. But yeah, I'm not even on Twitter. I'm not on any of the social media. So I definitely need to expand if I'm trying to find more creationists, flat earthers, race realists, climate change deniers, general pseudoscience practitioners. I'd love to debate them all.
Well, you've got a good connect in with a lot of the audience being on Donnie's channel, because that's that's where they go.
Yep.
He's that side of the debate spectrum. So
Yep.
And yeah, I said that we just ran through all my notes, and so we've been going about long enough here, about 2 hours. I think it's about
Hey,
time.
real quick, Hive Psy in the chat says that they challenged me to a debate. So I definitely I love Bree. Hive Psy, shout out. She knows her stuff. So I don't know what she would want to
We
debate me
love Bree.
about. Yeah, I'd be interested in what Bree wants to debate me about for sure.
Well, I'll go back and I'll take a looky here. There in just a second, we'll hit the final chat and wrap things up.
Sure.
And I thought, just for fun, and because we were here learning about Grayson, and Grayson's kind of new to YouTube, and I put together a little fun 20 questions. So what do you think, Grayson? Are you game for a rapid fire, and then we'll hit the chat and say hello to everybody and wrap things up?
Definitely, yeah.
All right, I put together a few questions just for fun, and learn a little bit more about Grayson. So here we go. Number 1, do you speak more than one language?
No, I actually I sorry, this is not exactly rapid fire, but
Go ahead.
I find that I can really easily learn new information when it comes to like semantic information, or like I can learn like new math formulas or science facts or concepts or history facts really easily. And I can retain them. But when it comes to learning a foreign language, it is like in one ear, out the other. Like it is just not. It is. I do not have. I actually have to really work at it to try to learn a foreign language in a way that I don't have to put as much effort into learning just like science or math or history. So it doesn't come naturally to me. I took French in high school and I took Japanese in college, and barely remember much of any of it. So definitely no, just fluent in one language. But I think I'm pretty I think I can use English rather well. I wrote an entire novel actually in college. So I love writing, poetry, prose, nonfiction, writing of any kind, science communication. I really do love writing, but strictly in English.
Okay, so just English.
Yep.
You didn't pick up Spanish phrases being in Texas, or just
You know
weren't in
what?
the
I was born
area?
and
Or
raised in Texas, and then I lived in San Diego for a number of years, literally 20 minutes away from the border. I have, dated Mexican women. I've spent a lot of time in Mexico. I'm so bad at picking up like language. I mean,
No habla.
I spent an entire month in Colombia recently, and like still like I'm just getting by on Google Translate. Like I am like such a gringo. Like it's pretty bad. I'm
I
not.
mean,
I do not have. I'm not a polyglot by any stretch of the imagination. I do not have a head
mi,
for languages.
mi nombre is David. That's it. That's all I know.
Yeah.
All right, number 2. What is your favorite type of music?
Ooh. I'm a thorough believer that having a broad musical taste is a sign of having an open mind. Um, and
That's me.
to that notion, I definitely I listen to a huge
How
variety
about
of music.
how about a go-to when you just need that
So my
end of the
favorite
day,
band
that end of the day go-to?
So my favorite band is Gorillaz, probably. So I've been listening to Gorillaz for a long time, and I probably have logged more hours of listening to Gorillaz than any other band. But I love a lot of other bands. I love Arctic Monkeys, Glass Animals. I love a lot of music from like the 60s and 70s. Feeling Good by Nina Simone is one of my favorite songs of all time. I love Stevie Wonder. Um, yeah, I mean, there's a
Who
bunch.
doesn't love Stevie Wonder?
Yeah, exactly. But I like rap too. I like electronic stuff. In college, I got really into going to music festivals. Like I've been to Burning Man a few times.
Oh, cool.
I like electronic music too. So um, really, there's not a lot of music that I really dislike besides my dad is like the biggest country like bluegrass fan in the world, and it's like reverse psychology, man. I hear that stuff, I'm like, turn that off. Like I can appreciate the musicality, the skill involved, but like as soon as I hear a singing with like that twang, like I just can't do it. So country music is where I draw the line.
Yeah, I like some Willie Nelson and some Johnny Cash, and
Oh yeah.
that's about it. That's about it.
Well, I can get behind that. I don't really consider that. I mean, yeah, it's a little
Well,
bit different.
Willie's like a national hero too. I mean, he
Yeah,
stood up against the man for how many years, getting
yeah.
busted
This
for a
machine
joint
kills
left and
fascists.
right. So, oh, I just saw. Speaking of Willie, I just saw the restoration of Willie's guitar. Have you ever
Wow.
seen it up close?
No.
It's worn through.
Hmm.
You can almost put your fist through, and I'm not talking about the hole for the acoustics. Where he strums, he has worn it through.
Wow.
And they go back from the inside and they put little backing and a little bit of
Oh yeah.
glue and everything, keep reinforcing it because he doesn't want it fixed. He wants it, just and yeah, he has worn through that guitar. That's how much
Wow.
he's played that guitar. It's amazing.
That's impressive.
All right, number 3. Would you rather travel to the past or to the future?
The future, definitely.
Number 4. Do you have any pets?
Yeah, I have 2 dogs. Like kind of small terriers, but they're really old now. Like one of them is deaf. They're like 2 little adorable old guys.
Are you
And then
left-handed?
actually,
Go
growing
ahead.
up, I had a whole lot of different pets. Um, eh, but the weirdest one was probably my dad was a falconer. So growing up, we always had a hawk. Like
Neat.
yeah, we would have like a little area for it, like a big enclosure in the backyard, and we would go
Hmm.
hunting with it on the weekends, like flush out the rabbits, have the hawk come. So that
That'd be a
my
neat
middle name is Hawk.
experience. Oh,
Um,
okay.
so
That's
it's
cool.
Grayson Hawk is my middle
Okay.
name. So definitely my dad is super into falcons. And yeah, so having those as a pet growing up was pretty unique and interesting. Like he would pick me up from school with the hawk on his arm.
So definitely an animal lover then.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I'd say like most of my time growing up, I probably spent like in the creek, like near my house, like catching snakes and toads and lizards. And, I would bring them home and keep them as a pet until they escaped. So
I brought a lot of critters home, but my mom's rule was no snakes.
Yeah.
She couldn't go there. They just gave her the weebie-jeebies. So
Oh, I had
no
snakes.
snakes.
I had plenty of snakes that I
I
would
had
catch.
I had a lot of other things, but yeah, I
Yeah,
couldn't have a snake. Yeah. Are you left-handed, right-handed, or both?
I'm right-handed.
French fries or chips?
Actually, this is a hard one for me because I was raised on a really weird diet. My dad was like one of like the very early pioneers for like the paleo movement back in the 90s. So he like wrote a diet book and everything. And so growing up, I never had any like sugar, carbohydrates, grains, beans, milk, sugar, like none of that stuff. Um, so I never really developed much
I'm
of.
learning a lot about that stuff because my son's got type 1, so
Oh
we've
yeah,
been
there you
learning a
go.
lot about diet. Yeah.
Yeah. So really, I mean, growing up, it was like meats and vegetables and fruits and nuts and berries and stuff. Like it was not, I wasn't having a lot of bread or sugar or potato chips. Like I didn't even have mac and cheese for the first time until college. So, it's not like I'd never really eat chips. So, I guess I would pick French fries, but I don't really eat French fries that much either. So I really don't eat a lot of carbs.
Okay. Fair enough. Uh, let's see. French number 7. Last book you read?
Ooh, the last book that I read. Well, I kind of the way that I read books is like I kind of am like split brain, so I'm like reading like 5 books at a time.
Me too.
Um,
And I told the wife the wife made me promise I wouldn't get any more because I got to finish reading the ones I still got bookmarks in.
yeah, so I've been going through a Murakami kick. So I've been reading a lot of Murakami's books. So he's like a Japanese like fiction author that I've really been liking his authorial style. Um, so I was reading like I just finished the Wind Up Girl Chronicle, which is very very good. So I would recommend Murakami's works. So I like reading a lot of fiction. Usually if I'm gonna read nonfiction, it's not really like in a book format. Like I'll typically, you know, search for things to read online
Mhm.
to like gain knowledge. If I'm gonna read like a novel format, I would rather it be like fiction, and I would rather you know, the I'm very very particular with what I read because I have to because I do love writing so much and I love the written word. If I Even if I really like the story, if I don't like the writing, then I cannot read it. And even if I don't like the story, if I really like the writing, then I will like love reading the book. So, I'm just I guess I'm a little bit of a snob for like the actual like writing quality, like sentence by sentence, paragraph structure, like whenever you're reading a book and you get to a sentence that you just have to reread a second time, you're just like, damn, like what a sentence. Like
Mhm.
those are the books that I really enjoy the most.
Let's see. Are you a sports fan? And if you are, do you have a favorite team?
I'm probably whatever the opposite of a sports fan is. I know pretty much nothing about sports, which is pretty crazy. Growing up in Texas, I don't even think I could name for you very many Texan sports teams. Um, I don't know any rules for any sports. Personally, like I really don't understand what people like about sports. I watch them. I don't get what's cool about them. I don't get what's interesting about them. They just go over my head. I don't get it at all. The only time I ever did sports was in middle school. I joined the football team so that I could meet more chicks. So that was it.
I was going to ask, in Texas, you didn't play football, but you did play at least a little bit, huh?
I literally did. I refused to learn any of the rules. I did not want any of the rules occupying any space in my brain. I felt like it was not important and I didn't want to waste any time memorizing it or learning it. All I wanted was the appearance that I was on the football team so I could get invited to the parties and I could tell girls that I'm on the football team. That's all I was in it for. I don't even know if I played in a single game. I think I was on the bench the whole season.
I can't knock your motives. I've been there. Like I said, we had those skinny little 10-speed bicycle tires, and if there was a party or whatever, we were going, and it didn't matter, if it was winter time out or anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's girls. Oh, let's go. We're fixing up the dew, and out the door we were going. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I like being athletic, or like I like being active, being outdoors. I like fighting. I like martial arts. I just don't get sports. It doesn't make sense to me, like why I'm supposed to be interested or care about it. It just
No,
I
not
don't.
everybody is. Yeah. I like football, but that's really my only one. I
I will
really
say
don't
though,
follow anything else.
I will say recently though, for the first time in my life, I actually did get into sports, but that's only because I decided to bet on the Super Bowl. And so I had like $500 riding on the Super Bowl. And that was the first time in my entire life where I was like, go, go, you got it, you got it, you can do it, you got it. And I was like, for the first time, I was like, I get it now. I get what people enjoy about this, but I could only get there if I had $500 riding on it.
Yeah, yeah. And easy on the gambling, folks. Yeah, don't make
Yeah,
that the only
I'm
reason.
not
Don't
condoning
make
any
that
of
the only reason you're watching. You can watch just to enjoy it. You don't have
Yep.
to do that. Okay. So not a sports fan. Okay. Place you most want to travel to.
Ooh, if I was going on a trip tomorrow, leaving, I'd probably want to go to Madeira, in the like an island in the Atlantic Ocean. Um, because one, I mean, it's the jewel of Europe. It's like the Hawaii of, well, they say it's Europe. It's closer to Africa, but it's in the Atlantic. The temperature is ideal. Um, like the whole reason I moved to San Diego was because it has perfect weather. So I love perfect weather. I think seasons, people love seasons. That's fine. Have your seasons. I'm going to go with perfect weather. I'm going to want to live in paradise every day. It's fine. It doesn't matter if it's 70 and sunny on Christmas. No skin off my bones. I can travel if I want to go experience winter or fall. But I love the weather. It's perfect weather in Madeira. But additionally, I really love some of the flora that exists on the island. It's the only instance that has this type of ancient fern forest that used to be widespread throughout mainland Europe in the past, but it's now extinct on the mainland. And the only place in the world where this type of forest biome still exists is actually on Madeira. These kind of misty fern, ancient forests, which I just really, really want to visit one day. So I think Madeira would probably be my pick. Or Socotra, which is another exotic island off the coast of Yemen. So obviously traveling to Yemen right now is a little bit fraught. But Socotra has been mostly untouched from the fighting. And again, just an instance with really, really weird flora. Like the trees and the plants that you see on this island look alien. They look out of this world, like no other plant species on the planet. It's like you've stepped onto some sort of like desert island alien paradise. It is totally mind-blowing. The dragon blood trees, it's like the actual name of the tree. It's like super cool sounding name. So yeah, definitely a big fan of islands and like weird, unique islands.
Oh, it sounds amazing. Let's see. I don't know if this will apply to you or not, but we'll try. Chocolate or vanilla?
Oh man, I don't know if I can choose. I used to be vanilla only. I didn't uh, really like eat that much chocolate until I was older, but now, I mean, it's almost, I probably get chocolate flavored things more than vanilla. So it's kind of switched, but I love both of them, both flavors. And strawberry, just call it a Neapolitan.
And strawberry with cantaloupe.
Yeah, exactly. But not ice cream though, that'd be weird.
Is your bed made right now?
No comment. Can't answer that one.
Would you rather drive a car, a truck, or ride a motorcycle?
Probably a car. Um, I'm not a biggest fan of trucks. Motorcycles seem like they'd be fun, but I've never driven one, and I like having a little bit more room. I like being able to like lay back, relax, listen to music, have stuff in my car, you know. So probably a car. Just a basic decision.
A classic. What's your favorite color?
Green.
If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Oh man. This is really close for me between time manipulation and teleportation. So I will just say that according to Einstein, space and time are the same manifold. So if I could just cheat, then I would just say space-time manipulation. So then I could teleport anywhere. I could pause time. That'd be pretty much anything I would ever want or need would be taken care of. I could just teleport out to an island paradise.
Have a big clock on your chest that goes backwards or forwards, depending.
Yeah, I mean, like I could pause time whenever I want to live in the same moment. I don't know if whenever I was I thought about this question a lot when I was younger, and I would always go back between like being able to pause time and being able to teleport, and I could never pick. And I saw this one British movie, Cash Back. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's about a guy who like finds out that he can have the ability to stop time. And I first saw it when I was in high school, and
I
what
might
he
have
does in
seen
the
it.
movie what he does in that movie is exactly what I would have done in high school if I had the ability to stop time. I'll just say it with that. But he uses the powers in the exact way that I wanted to use the powers when I was in high school. Great movie. But yeah, space time manipulation.
Let's see. Number 15. We're almost there. What meal would you choose if it had to be the only thing you could eat for the rest of your life?
Pemmican. So I told you that I had a bit of a weird diet growing up. Like growing up paleo, my dad like was big on it. He wrote a whole diet book. So my baby food was pemmican, which is like a Native American hunting food that is a little bit like if somebody took beef jerky and ground it up into like more of a fine powder and then congealed it with rendered fat. Sounds gross, but I personally think it's delicious because I've been eating it since I was a baby, basically. Um, and kids used to make fun of me saying I was eating dirt, and I always tell people, you'll like it more than you think you will, but you're not gonna like it as much as I do. But I still will make pemmican to this day, like if I need to go on like a big camping trip or to a music festival or something, just because it's literally just like pure fat and protein. Like you just take a pinch full of it and like you have enough energy to like last you steady through the like for hours. So like the Inuit will actually make a batch of pemmican with like seal meat and fat when they're going on like weeks long hunting excursions where like literally pemmican is the only thing that they're eating. Like you can eat pemmican for weeks at a time, and you can go on an extended trip and you can still have energy, stamina, your mental focus. It contains a lot of vitamins, not all of them. You will eventually get vitamin deficiencies, but I think that yeah, pemmican would probably be my answer both for flavor and nutritional content.
My policy is never ruin another man's feast. If you're enjoying it, knock yourself out. Doesn't mean I'm gonna like it,
Yeah.
but hey, I eat things and some people say ew at that. So
Yeah.
I never ruin another man's feast.
So
Enjoy your feast.
somebody in the comments asked if I identify as Native American. I do not. It's actually funny. I mentioned my middle name was Hawk. So actually, originally, my dad wanted to name me as my first name, Greyhawk. So it was my mom that talked him down from that, and eventually they landed on Grayson Hawk, which is a lot better because I'm sure that if my name had been Greyhawk, like my entire childhood would have been explaining to everyone, like, no, I'm not Native American.
Right.
I'm just a white guy. Like, So
That's a Seinfeld episode. You mean we're just a couple of white guys or a couple of
yeah.
white people? Yeah. Okay. That was your meal. Okay. The last movie you watched.
The last movie I watched, actually just 2 nights ago, I rewatched Mars Attacks from
A
1996.
classic. Yeah.
Great movie, man.
Yeah, it is.
I forgot just how many stars were in that movie. Like, you had a young
Mhm.
Natalie Portman, you had young Jack Black, you had Pierce Brosnan as a disembodied head, and then you had Jack Nicholson playing, like, he was both playing like the politician president who always is charismatic and speaking in a bunch of empty platitudes, and then he's also playing like the con man real estate mogul that's like super narcissistic and obsessed with his own business ambitions, and they're both played by Jack Nicholson. And I'm like, man, this movie was so prescient of Trump. Like, combine those two characters into one, and that's what you get.
I was just thinking it in my head.
Yeah.
What's the best advice you ever received?
Best advice I ever received. I honestly, I don't know if I have a good answer for that right off the top of my head. I'd have to like really think about that. Yeah, I can't really summarize anything into like a quick little pithy blurb of advice.
All right, we're almost to the end. Number 19 or number 18. What would be your dream job?
So growing up, I always said that my top 3 ideal jobs were pirate, international man of mystery, and Indiana Jones. So
I like those.
yeah, although I would also probably say like somebody like a science communicator, like a Bill Nye kind of figure, would also be kind of ideal for me. I think I would really love that. So being able to, yeah, be a science communicator with an audience, I would love that. Or yeah, being able to run my own school, like a K through 12 school, where I could kind of design and oversee my own curriculum, would also be a dream come true.
Let's see. Okay, number 19. If you could have a conversation with anyone from history, who would it be and why?
Ooh, man. I'll just list some of the first ones that come to my head. Richard Feynman, Chuang-Tzu, the Taoist, maybe Marcus Aurelius, or yeah, I mean, I think that would be a pretty good tribunal.
All right, and the number 20. Your favorite cryptid beastie.
You know, I would say that I would really have to think about that one, but that would not be true. The obvious answer, straight up in my mind, I mean, can there be any other answer? It's Bigfoot. It's got to be Bigfoot.
All hail Bigfoot.
All hail.
All right. Appreciate it. And let's wrap things up with the usual. Let us know what you got upcoming, debates, what's going on with your channel, anything to plug. Fire away.
Yeah, so we already talked about some of my upcoming debates, like my debate with Kent Hovind coming up. I think that might have actually moved to the 28th, but it's at the end of April. May 4th is that debate with T-Rock and McQueen on the fossil record ordering and the plankton question. I've got a debate coming up with a guy named Sea Science, a creationist. It's going to be his first debate. He wants to debate about actually what he calls the Sasquatch-like Australopithecus. So he wants to do a whole
Looking
debate.
forward to it.
Yeah, he
Looking
wants to do a
forward.
whole debate on Australopithecus, which I'm very, very excited about. And then, yeah, so I've got a few of my own based theories, as I call them. Just like the videos that are just about a random topic. They're not debate videos. So those are the videos I'm actually kind of like the most proud of. And I've got a few of those coming up. Got one
It
coming
makes
up
you feel
soon.
good when you do a video, doesn't it?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
get all your
definitely.
stuff put together, and then you're like, it makes you feel good. Yeah,
Definitely. So I've got two coming up on that. So I actually I let the audience pick the topic. Like I'll give kind of like 5 options in a poll, and then I kind of let the audience see which one is the most interesting to them, because I find that really rewarding and really interesting to see what they're interested in. So
that's a good idea. That's a good idea.
they've picked the next 2 topics. So the next base theory that's going to be coming out is about the holographic principle, and whether or not the universe as a whole is a hologram. And we'll be talking about black holes in that too. So kind of a physics, kind of existential topic. And then the one after that is going to be highlighting different mammals and mammalia forms in the Mesozoic, so during the age of the dinosaurs, and just going to be talking about some of the really like weird and dead end mammal like creatures that we were seeing back in the age of the dinosaurs. Because a lot of people have this conception that the only mammals that were alive back then were like tiny little rodent things that were hiding in burrows, trying not to get eaten by dinosaurs. But in the last few years, especially with like fossil sites in like China and Madagascar, we've actually begun to get a much broader picture and seeing that, hey, actually 2 out of the 3 mammal radiations in the history of mammals was during the time of the dinosaurs. And there were actually a lot of diverse different types of mammals, and some of them like got to pretty decent sizes back during the time of the dinosaurs. So I'm going to go through like, a few of the weirdest, most notable little mammalian form freaks from back during the dinosaur era. So I'm really looking forward to both of those.
Sounds good. Well, let's check with the chat really quick here before we say goodnight. And again, appreciate everybody that joined us. And I'm just going to go to the end here and scroll through real quick here, because it's getting late and I don't want to keep Grayson anymore. But I want to show my appreciation to everybody joining us. Again, Calasia, thank you. Carol, thank you. Logan, thanks for joining us. And Sapir Ode is as good as I'm going to get until I look it up after later, but I'm going to do that. Why not Chupacabra? They actually found a Chupacabra. It's a hairless dog, so they kind of ruined the mystery on that one. They kind of got to scratch that one off the list. Have to check with Bree. She's the expert, but I think that one's kind of scratched. Carol says Jesus is a myth, and Carol's position on that's usually pretty clear. Mm-hmm. And thanks for joining us, Carol. Carol's got a stream upcoming. What's the date? 6th, like Tuesday, I think she has one. So join her.
My dad is a mythicist, but I myself, I think that there was a real person historically, but I think obviously there's a whole lot of myth making that has gone up around that.
That's my thing, that even if there was a Jesus, I don't think anybody would know it from anything else, because the stories have just grown so much.
Yeah.
Logan, thanks for joining us. Grayson is a great debater. He does do a great job. And Bree, thanks for joining us, Bree. At the very least, Mothman is the sexiest cryptid. Okay. Bree's vote is for Mothman, but we know Bree loves Bigfoot too, so she covers a lot of Bigfoot. And everybody go check out Bree's channel, especially if you love her debunking of creationism and her cryptid corner, I believe it's called. Sorry if I messed that up, Bree. She covers a lot of topics and she does a great job. Logan says probably Chopin or Bach for me. You got a classic music
Oh yeah.
lover. I like a little bit. I like some of the classics. You know what I really like is when the London Symphony Orchestra covers rock albums.
Hmm.
Those are really neat because it's like rock. You know, I know the rock music song, but it's being played by the orchestra where normally I wouldn't know that type of music. So it's an interesting crossover and a little bit of exposure. So I can like I think Grayson said earlier, you can appreciate the talent, you know, even if it isn't your genre of music.
Mm-hmm.
Bree wants to know what your favorite dinosaur is.
Oh man, that is such a difficult question.
It
You know,
always is.
like as a kid growing up, I always loved like the Raptors. Um, I think, and then I would move to Spinosaurus. I really love Spinosaurus because really I love T Rex, but I didn't want to be so basic as to have T Rex be my favorite. So I would be like, oh no, my favorite Spinosaurus. And then now with everything that's come out with Spinosaurus, like, I'm sorry if Spinosaurus is still your favorite, but like, come on. I'm just gonna say it. I'm gonna say the word. He's dinky. He's a little dinky. Look at how short his little back legs are. Like he's dinky. Okay, he's not that intimidating. Like yeah, maybe if you're at the watering hole, I would be scared of Spinosaurus. But Spinosaurus, I can't say is my favorite anymore. I'm kind of at like I kind of part of me wants to go back to T Rex, but there's that hipster part of me that wants to have a different opinion and that's not basic. And so there's another part of me that I really like Therizinosaurus. It's it's a little bit different than my normal type because it's not a predator, it's not a carnivore, but they've got these long giant claws, um, and they've got they're like theropod dinosaurs, so they've got the kind of T-Rex kind of shape, but they've got a longer neck, more slender, potentially beaked head, and I think that they just look so cool. They're like the giant ground sloths of dinosaurs, um,
Mm.
and these kind of like I just kind of like imagining these kind of like gentle giants with giant claws going around, getting honey or getting fruits or whatever. I mean, so I don't know if I have a strong favorite, but I listed at least my thought process for that. So those are some of the options.
And she also wanted to know, I think this was in reference to sports. Do you hike, kayak, snorkel, anything like that?
Well, I definitely love hiking. I love like being out in nature, exploring, big into, seeing what's around the corner and like I love creeks and streams and lakes and rivers, mountains. Like I spent a lot of time in Colorado and California hiking. Um, Kayaking though, snorkeling not as much. Like I used to live like right by the beach in San Diego, so I'd go to the beach, but and I love swimming, but a lot of the stuff that involves like extra equipment, like I never owned a kayak, so I have been kayaking. I enjoy it, but I'm not gonna buy a kayak. Same with snorkeling. Like I love swimming. I have snorkeled, but it's not something that I do regularly as a pastime. Hiking, though, I do love hiking and camping.
Let's see. Dress up like Flavor Flav. That must have been my clock comment about being a time traveler. Yeah, you could dress up like Flavor Flav with the big giant clock hanging around your neck, and you could just turn it this way or turn it that way. You go wherever you want at a time. Bree says maybe add the Galapagos.
Mm, you know, I have a big, big list of all the places in the world that I want to visit, and the Galapagos is not that high on that list. Maybe I'm underrating the Galapagos. I'm open to the case being made for the Galapagos, but there are a lot of islands on my list. And there'll be a lot, even in the category of like weird and unique and interesting ones, like the ones I talked about earlier. There are other ones that I would put higher than the Galapagos, like New Caledonia, like northeast of Australia. I mean, they, I mean, there's some really crazy flora and fauna going on in New Caledonia. There are literally like
Grayson
ferns.
knows where he wants to go.
There are literally ferns that look like palm trees. Like they're like you look at it, you think that's a palm tree. Look again, that's a fern, buddy. Like, crazy. And I mean, they're not currently living on New Caledonia, but New Caledonia used to have tree crocodiles that lived up in trees, not in water. Tree crocs. I mean, come on. And these things were alive until humans showed up on the island. So like pretty recent.
That's not what I want dropping out of a tree.
No.
Well, Bree still thinks you'd be a great sidekick to travel with. So,
yeah, I think I'm a pretty good travel buddy. The only thing is that I'm atrocious at making plans, but I'm very good at going with the flow and being spontaneous. So it's a win-lose kind of balancing game there.
And he doesn't make the bed either.
hey, allegedly, you have no proof. These are just baseless accusations.
Yeah, Bree agrees with some of your choices. Bree also doesn't do sports. Carol doesn't do sports. Bree says, no idea what to debate about. We mostly agree about stuff. I think she just wants to hang out with you a little bit.
Yeah, she's challenging me to a debate, but doesn't even know what we would debate.
I think it was just in response because you were saying you were looking for debates. So she said she would debate you. So
I'm sure that Bree and
hey, if you're bored, you know, maybe a little practice, you know what I mean? You could
I'm sure that Bree and I could find something to disagree with, but the thing is that I have a dangerous tendency to play devil's advocate. So all the time, sometimes if somebody doesn't disagree with me, sometimes like I will like take on the devil's advocate position and like start a debate, and people are like, Grayson, why are you arguing with me? You agree with me. And I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. Crap. Like I'm like, so like it can be dangerous. Like I don't mean to be so argumentative, but sometimes like I'll even argue with people I agree with. So that's why I try to redirect my argumentation tendencies towards creationists and those that I have real substantive disagreements with.
You got another fan. Andrew says you are a good debater, Grayson. Your expansion is sure to go well.
Oh, thanks, Andrew. I appreciate that. I've been growing the channel at a steady rate. Just keeping it steady. But I definitely would not be opposed to more exponential growth. That's for sure.
We've got Mark Reed fans. Mark does a great job in the debates. Yes, indeed, he does. Bree wants to know, do you know the names of his strawberry ancestors? I'm not sure what that's applying to exactly.
So there's, I don't know,
maybe do the strawberries, or
maybe this is Bree's secret account, but there is a troll account that will sometimes pop into live chats and will ask me if if my ancestors were strawberries, and so I troll them by saying, "Yeah, my mom was a strawberry."
Okay.
So yeah, I'll just answer this and say, yes, I do know the name of my own mother. So I'm a good son. I know my mom's name. So that'll answer your question.
And let's see. Yeah, some comments, what we were talking about with T-Rock and whatnot. And Andrew agrees. I tend to email experts on these topics. He doesn't trust, just Wikipedia or anything anymore. He wants to make sure, which is always good to do. Wikipedia, it serves its purpose, but it shouldn't be your end all. You should always check, everything. So, and they could be wrong, just not intentional. Somebody put the wrong paper on the wrong thing, whatever, it doesn't hurt to look at it. So, and like Andrew and Grayson have both been saying, and I've heard it from a lot of other people that have emailed people, and a lot of the scientists do email people back. So, it can't hurt. If you got a question, email them and ask. You might just get an answer. And the Paulogia, I think I watched Paulogia from day one. I think I caught his video when it first came on. So it's been neat because that's one where I, caught his video right then, and I've watched them all, and the progression all through the years and everything. So good for him. And let's see. Yeah, creationists don't have explanations. Andrew, yeah, they always change. He wants to know, do they have a good model for granite formation? Well, yeah, you'll ask one, but then the next one will give you a different answer. So that's always the problem with they aren't consistent. They can't even agree with each other.
Ultimately, their answer is just God did it that way.
Yeah, Andrew says you got to see that, Grayson. You got to see the Sal book video. I'm sure that's what he's talking about.
I'll definitely check it out.
Yeah, Sal the grifter. Yeah, Sal's everybody's best friend until you cross him. Yeah, that's Andrew says the same thing until you go across him, and then he's a different person. And there's a Kent Hovind comment. Kent Hovind is good for validating dumb, credulous Christians. I doubt he's ever convinced a single person that was even remotely informed about any of the stuff he talks about. That's usually my comment in Donnie's chats, is that thankfully nothing Ken says will ever be in a biology book. So,
yep.
And let's see. I think I've said hello to everybody. And again, appreciate everybody for joining. There's a lot of comments. Appreciate everybody for being here. Lots of fans, Grayson. So you're well loved. And make sure everybody checks out Grayson when he's doing his debates, and show him love in the chat and everything, and support. And I think that's about it. Chris, again, Chris Moore, thanks. All right. Yeah, I think that's good.
Cool. Well, thanks very much for having me.
Hey, thanks, Grayson. It was a great conversation.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun.
You can find the link to Grayson's channel in the description, Base Theory. Go like and subscribe, show him some love. He does a great job debating. He's got great content. Help him grow, okay? Again, the link is in the description. That's the only link you have, right? Is just your Base Theory?
Yep.
For now.
Yep. That's Base Theory, like the opposite of cringe theory.
All right. Thank you again, Grayson, and thanks for everybody in the chat. And if you enjoy discussions like these, subscribe with a bell so you'll get notified about upcoming videos. And I'll see you then.